38-year-old internet salesperson Judy Osland and her husband Michael Osland are suing Judy's daughter, 20-year-old student Julie Wasley, for the return of a camcorder and the cost of baby photos.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 377 on the calendar in the matter of Osland versus Wasley. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Miss Osland, you're really involved with this case. Is this your husband?
Yes, it is.
Your daughter had a baby. Is this your first grandchild?
Yes, ma'am.
And according to you, you bought a camcorder for her to record and memorialize the baby's first smile, coming home, and you loaned it to her.
Yes, ma'am.
And she refuses to return it to you.
Yes, ma'am.
But what I gather precipitated this bad blood between you and your daughter, I'm sure there's a lot more underneath,
Oh, yes.
is that at some point you went to a shopping mall to take pictures of the new baby, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And they took pictures of the new baby that was supposed to be your pictures,
Yes, ma'am.
and your daughter and you had some sort of a falling out. So she went to pick up the pictures. There was a fight, so now you want the pictures and you want the camcorder. Daughter says the camcorder was a gift, and I don't know what she says about the pictures.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Okay. When the baby was born, was everybody happy?
Yes. She invited me down to the delivery room, and I was in the delivery room
Is that
with her
right?
and everything, yes.
Yes, Your Honor, I did invite her.
So everything was okay. So the baby was born.
Yes, ma'am.
Boy or girl?
Little girl.
How long did you stay in the hospital?
Less than 24 hours.
So it was an easy delivery,
Very.
in and out? Or just out?
Quick.
Who took you home from the hospital?
My boyfriend did.
You're the boyfriend.
Yes.
And you live together with your boyfriend.
Yes, Your Honor.
Any plans to get married?
Not right now.
Any reason?
Just not ready.
Ready to have a baby but not get married.
It wasn't planned.
But you are living together as a family.
Yes.
When did you buy the camcorder? Before or after the baby was born?
Before.
And when did you physically allow your daughter to have possession of the camcorder?
It was, let's see, a day after the baby was born. My sister had just had a baby, too, and then we all went to the hospital after she had her baby.
So you saw her in the hospital?
Yes.
And is that when you turned the camcorder over to her?
Yes.
She's
And-
lying. She gave it to me a week before the baby was born.
So let me hear your version of what happened.
Okay, we went to the hospital, me and my sister, to visit, and then I gave my daughter, that day I gave her a Harley Davidson outfit that my husband wanted the baby to wear,
Okay.
and the camcorder.
What did you say to her when you gave her the camcorder?
I told her, this is to film your baby with.
And that's what you said to her?
Yeah, I didn't say it was a gift.
You didn't say it was a gift?
No,
According
ma'am,
to
I
you, you
didn't.
didn't say it was a gift, and you didn't say, I'm loaning this to you. You said, I want you to use this to record the
Yes,
baby.
ma'am, yes.
Now, according to you, let me hear your version of how the camcorder came into your possession.
I was on maternity leave. I went on maternity leave a week early from work, and I went over to visit, and they gave it to me in a little Harley-Davidson handle bag. And they said that it was a gift. It was supposed to be for Christmas, but since I was having a baby, they gave it to me early.
And did you record the baby?
No, we haven't.
Why not?
We've had many photo albums. We're using the
Okay, so
camera
you-
more often.
Okay. So, now you're going to take pictures of the baby. How old was the baby when you went to take the pictures at the mall?
Almost a month.
Tell me how that came about.
She wanted to take pictures. We went to the mall.
You went to a studio?
Yes,
In the mall?
JCPenney.
And you have to pay for those pictures?
Yes.
Did your mother
paid
pay for them?
She paid for them on her check card.
So it's clear that the pictures were for her, right?
The agreement was for both of us.
No.
Probably for both of you. Probably for both of you. But it was clear that the pictures were her idea. She paid for them.
Yes.
And she was going to pick them up.
Yes.
But you went to pick them up. Tell me why.
We had an argument about a week before the pictures were supposed to come in.
What was the argument about?
Me going down to Louisiana for Thanksgiving.
No. That's,
Just a minute. Let you. Yes?
She was mad that I was taking our daughter down to Louisiana to see his sister, and that she never gets to see the baby. And then I knew she wasn't going to give his family any of the pictures because she even said so. So I went and picked them up 2 days early, and I offered her the money.
What was the fight about?
It was about him not claiming her baby. He doesn't want to claim the baby because he doesn't think it's his.
I already
He's
have
already-
claimed the baby.
That's good.
No, I'm asking you what the fight was about. It wasn't about
That's-
Thanksgiving?
No, ma'am. It was about him claiming her baby. And she said since I didn't like Chris because he wouldn't claim the baby, then I can't see my grandchild. And I haven't seen her since.
You swore against her.
Let's deal with the pictures first. It was spiteful to go and have to pick up the pictures 2 days early.
Yes, I know.
Okay, and I think you understand that. And that precipitated, I want my camcorder back. Otherwise, if everything was going just fine, the camcorder would have remained with your daughter to take pictures of the baby because that's really what you bought it for.
Yes.
But when she didn't give you the pictures back, and then you got to the house and there was an altercation about the pictures, because then you went there according to what
Yes,
I read
I
and said,
did. And I got slapped in the mouth besides.
give me the pictures, and that was terrible. How old are you?
21.
And you?
Almost.
23.
Other than this incident and the normal kind of things that you have with parents, especially that girls have with their mothers, you know, that's a very unique kind of relationship. It's very often this love-hate thing that goes back and forth as you're getting older. Usually it resolves itself when girls are about 30. So you have 9 years left.
Thanks.
But usually it resolves itself. It's a very bad thing not to talk to your mother. It's a very bad thing not to talk to your daughter.
Yeah, I know that.
And somehow daughters tend to stay angry.
Very.
Your mother was excited about your baby after she resigned the fact that you were having one.
Yeah.
No, she wasn't.
Well, you asked her to be in the delivery room. She came. According to you, she bought you a camcorder. She was interested enough that she wanted to have pictures of the baby to show around, right?
Yes.
So she was involved.
After a while, yes.
Well, it takes some time, Julie.
She wanted me to
Gotta
abort it
adjust.
at first.
Julie, listen to me. She's got a 21, then maybe 20-year-old, beautiful daughter who is intelligent, with hopefully a bright future, who comes to her and says, I'm pregnant, I'm going to have this baby, I'm going to live with my boyfriend, we're not ready to commit to marriage, but we're going to live together. You think she should throw a party?
No.
Julie, I guarantee you, if your daughter comes to you and says the same thing, you know what you're going to do? You're going to be nuts. Because that's the natural thing. I mean, parents only want what's best for their kids. And certainly this baby at your age, being not married, is complicating your very young life. You don't expect your mother to be ecstatic about that.
No.
But ultimately, she came to accept it. You have the pictures of the baby?
Not with, no.
It's a very easy thing to make copies of those pictures. Have you done that?
No.
Will you do that?
For her,
Yes.
I don't want her having them.
Julie, you haven't heard anything that I said, darling.
Your Honor,
Okay.
I don't want
How
the
much-
pictures. I just want the money. I want to be done with
Well,
this.
how much were the pictures?
They were 182.47.
You are absolutely entitled to the money for the pictures.
Yes,
I
I
think that
want
the
my
camcorder is a different story. I honestly believe that the camcorder was given to your daughter, and that the reason you now say you want it back is because of this terrible altercation with regard to these pictures and the fight that you had, which should have been over a long time ago.
Not
But
sure.
but Julie, you're still angry.
Yes, I am.
Get unangry.
I'm
Try to
more
get-
hurt.
Join the crowd.
Parent, listen to me. Parents aren't perfect. Doesn't mean that your mother loved you any less. She came around eventually, right?
Yes.
Came around
It's been going on for 8 years now, though.
practically since you became a teenager.
Yes.
Wait until your daughter turns 13.
Yeah, I can't wait. You know what, Your Honor? I
Trust-
can't wait.
Trust me. You'll see your daughter doing certain things. You'll try to discourage her from doing those things, and there's that friction. And it's usually with mothers who had made sufficient number of mistakes to say, listen, I made those mistakes. I don't want my daughter to do what I did. And then there is a clash, and it usually doesn't get over for a long time. So try to get unangry. Parents aren't perfect. Kids aren't perfect. There is that unconditional love you're supposed to have. And equally as important, you don't deprive your daughter of a grandparent. Children, little children, like that community of affection.
His family is big enough.
Do you know what the divorce rate is in this country?
Very high.
50%. Do you know what that percentage goes to with people who are living together without benefit of marriage who can't make up their minds? Probably 90%. So there is a 90% chance that you and this young man will not be together in 10 years. She'll always be your mother. And after the two of you have gone your own separate ways, hopefully amicably, because there's a 90% chance that that's going to happen, maybe your daughter will see her paternal family. Maybe. Because usually when two people separate, there's usually lots of hostility. There's lack of child support, there's lack of all those other things. So usually it's not so amicable. But she'll always be your mother. So what you're saying now is very youthful. You know, he's got a big enough family. I've heard that before. You only have one mother. And she's not perfect. I guarantee you she's not perfect. But you gotta get the mad off. It eats you up inside. Try at least. Anyway, pay for the pictures, $182.47. Maybe you can go out for a cup of coffee. That's it.
Parties are excused. You can step out.
She's not going to see her granddaughter, and we're not going to have a relationship anymore.
I think it turned out good. At least I got the money back for the pictures. As far as not seeing my granddaughter, I will.
And now the next case.
All parties on Bryant versus Williford. Step forward, please.
41-year-old homemaker Loretta Bryant is suing 40-year-old surgical technician Lori Williford. Loretta claims Lori's son, 17-year-old Matthew, assaulted her daughter with an ashtray.
Miss Bryant, you and the defendant at one point shared a home together.
No, ma'am. It was my daughter, Rhiannon.
Do you know anything about
I'm suing
this?
in behalf of my daughter because she's a minor child.
Okay, why don't you have a seat, please? Step
ma'am.
up. You shared a home with the defendant.
Yes, ma'am, I did. Him and his girlfriend, Melissa.
Are you the mother, too?
I'm the mother, too.
Would you sit down? Stand up here. According to your complaint, an incident occurred where the defendant assaulted you with an object.
An ashtray.
Go ahead.
They had stayed out all night, him and his friend. Melissa was very worried. They came in. Matt proceeded to tell her that he did not love her, he did not want to be with her, and he wanted to move out. After we had spent all this money in getting a house, his friend was being very rude to me. He was calling me names, and I kicked him out of my house.
How did you do that?
I struck him in the head a few times.
With what?
And the phone. He had the phone in his hands.
So you struck his friend.
Yeah, his friend. I made him leave. I went back to my room. I heard one loud sound, and that was when ashtray hit my door. It made a hole in my door about this big around. I opened the door, and the other ashtray hit me.
Where did the ashtray hit you?
It hit me on my arm, right here. My arm immediately swelled up. The police came. They said seek medical attention. We did not press charges because that night Matt had said he was sorry and that he was going to pay my hospital bill.
How much was your hospital bill?
It was $225.
Was that an emergency room visit?
Yes, it was
Yes.
not the hospital. It was a place called Emergicare. And it's just like a little facility where you go and reach medical attention right then and there.
Okay. What other bills did you have as a result of your injured arm?
I was out of work
For how long?
2 days.
What was your wage each day? What did you take home each day?
I would say anywhere from $32 to $36 for both days
For
together.
both days? Let's hear it.
All right. I left the night before because of drug use has been going on. And I come back and it was about 9 o'clock in the morning, me and my friend Jonathan. Her and Jonathan started saying something to each other, and he said some vulgar stuff to her. And she hit him in the head with the phone. I told her to get out my face. She went in the bedroom, and I was very frustrated.
So she got out of your face,
Yeah, right.
as you had requested.
Yes, ma'am.
Pick it up from there.
All right. I picked up an ashtray and throwed it towards the door.
What'd you do that for?
I was mad.
Okay,
And-
so you hit the door.
I hit the door and I picked up another one and threw it the same direction. The door was closed out, and then she opened the door and the ashtray hit her. I freaked out because I wasn't trying to hurt nobody, and I took off out the door because I didn't know what to do.
So then you admit that you threw an ashtray.
Yes, ma'am.
The ashtray hit her in her arm.
Yes, ma'am.
You got scared and you left.
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't you pay the medical bill?
I did not have that kind of money at the time.
You want to say something?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I talked with Miss Bryant. She called me a few weeks after this happened, and I told her, I said, you know, I do not have that kind of money. I'll be willing to work with you, but I don't have that kind of money. And she was just very ugly, cussing me out, and I said, whatever you got to do with this, go ahead and do, because she was very vulgar to talk with.
No, ma'am, that's not how it happened. He agreed to pay her bill. 2 days later, he's like, I'm not paying it, do whatever it is you got to do. I called her on the phone, and yes, we did have some words, but she was just as heated as I was because we were both frustrated at the situation. I did not cuss her out. That's a barefaced lie.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why didn't you pay this bill?
I didn't feel responsible to have to pay it.
Why?
It wouldn't ever have occurred if she wouldn't have started it.
Can I see those ashtrays, please? Bird, thank you.
Sure.
Even though you didn't intend to hurt her, you intended to vent your frustration at the door, right?
Correct.
Which is the ashtray that hit you?
The blue one. It had charcoal on it.
Just a minute. That's a pretty heavy weapon. You know, you could kill somebody with that?
I was not thinking at the time.
Right. Well, if you're not thinking, then you're acting stupid. And if you're acting stupid and you cause injury to somebody, you have to pay for it, right?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to say one thing to you. The person that you hit on the head with the telephone would have the same complaint about you. And the first person to use any physical force, was who?
That was me.
Right. Not smart. So the violence in that, the physical violence, was started really by your daughter. Not against him, but against somebody else. You are clearly responsible for the injury to her arm. I don't have your friend Jonathan here, who was clobbered over the head, so I don't have to deal with that. Was there any repercussion as a result of that assault?
No, ma'am.
Jonathan just took care of the bump on his head, is that right?
Jonathan had a lot of personal problems anyway.
Well, being hit on the head with a telephone didn't help. All right, the bills that I see here, are, together with the medical bill, $261. So what do you think that Matt should pay?
I think Matt should at least pay the bills. Pay what he agreed to pay.
Absolutely right. And for your day's wages. $261, judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. This is case number 385 on the calendar in the matter of Blaylock versus Jackson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Blaylock, according to your complaint, you were driving your car. The defendant was a pedestrian. Did you know him from before this incident?
No, I didn't.
Had you ever seen him before?
No, I didn't.
You were driving your car. According to you, the defendant came up to your car, broke your car window, causing glass to go in your face. You wanted to pay for the car window as well as for a rental car that you had to rent while your car was being fixed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and where did this happen?
On the north side of town in Jacksonville, Florida.
Tell me what kind of roadway that is. Is it a 2-lane roadway? Is it 4 lanes?
It's a 2-lane road in a residential area.
1 lane in each direction?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, basically I was going down the road, and it's like a 30-mile-per-hour road. So I was driving, and I saw him approaching, coming across the street. And he really wasn't paying attention, so I kind of slowed down. I tooted my horn, and I pointed, you know, to the direction of the sidewalk, like requesting him to go to the sidewalk. So he said something, but I really couldn't hear him because my windows was up. So he kept walking or whatever in front of my car.
What do you mean he kept walking in front of your car? Was he going from one side of the street to the other?
He was steadily walking ahead. He began to walk ahead.
You mean in the street where the cars go?
Yes.
So was he walking in the same direction you were?
Yes.
So he's walking in the same direction you were, but he's walking in the street where the single lane of cars going in one direction had to go, and he was walking. Okay, how much in the street was he?
I guess 3 to 4 feet in the street.
Okay, and he was walking in the same direction as your car?
Yes.
You tooted the horn. Did he turn around when you tooted the horn?
Yes, he did. So I rolled my window down, and I was like, could you get out of the street? So he began to curse, and I'm a pedestrian, I don't have to move. or whatever other words he was saying. But I was saying, well, you still need to get out of the street. So it was a verbal, confrontation. So then a school bus came. So the school bus, because I was going to go around him instead of driving my car on the side, on the sidewalk and the grass, the school bus came. So the school bus stopped. The kids got off of the bus, so that he was still in the middle of the street doing this process. So then kids began to walk through. He was still acting irate and cursing. So then that made where I couldn't even go around because the kids had came to a complete stop watching him. So I was, after the kids that were walking, towards the apartment complex, after that area was clear, I was going to go in the grass and go around him. So I rolled my window back up. I rolled to the side. He began to approach my car. So I couldn't just speed, in that area because of the kids that were walking, and he was up to my car cursing. But as he is cursing, I'm not even really looking at him. I'm trying to hurry up and get away from him, but I didn't want to hit a child. All of a sudden, he bust my window with his hand.
Which window did he bust?
He bust my driver's side window. So I grabbed my cellular phone. I said, now I'm calling the police. So he was cursing. So after, everything was clear, I just went ahead and went, blowed my horn, move, and I went because I didn't want him to further put his hands on me. As I turned the corner, I was calling the police, but the police was already coming. I flagged him down and told him that a person I didn't know had just struck my window, broke it, and struck me. When the police followed me back to the complex, Mr. Jackson was nowhere in sight. We found Mr. Jackson in the back of the apartment complex around other people, and he was just stating that I ran over his feet, his arm was bleeding. He said I ran over his arm, so the officer was ready to take me to jail. It was my word against his. The rescue came, and the rescue began to pick glass out of his arm. So then the officer was like, well, how did, she run over your feet? I see no tire marks. How did she run over your arm? I see no, where's the glass coming from? So he just went on, and the officer told me to be quiet and had me step to the side. So I really couldn't say whatever else he was saying.
Let me see the police report. You were not cited, Miss Baylock, is that right?
Both of us were giving, in my city, we get yellow cards to go downtown to the state attorney's office. At the beginning, I was given the card because I was the suspect, but after the rescue came and was picking glass out of his arm, he became a suspect also.
But nothing happened with either one of those cards?
Yes.
What happened with it?
Okay. I went to the state attorney's office to file my complaint because I didn't know him. And, I just wanted to feel safe. I didn't know this man. I don't know, what type of person he was. Okay, we had mediation. He made threats during the mediation, stated to me that he was going to sue me, made other threats stating that when he got through with me, I would be nobody, I would be nothing.
So what happened with that mediation?
Okay, they closed the mediation because he was very irate, and the person that was doing the mediation was like an older type senior citizen type person, and he was hollering too much, and the man couldn't speak over him, so we were supposed to be back down there. I received letters in the mail that he was suing me from my insurance company, and then I had several...
Do you have a lawsuit pending against her?
I have the paperwork
Just
right
a second.
here.
I'd like to see that too. So you don't have a lawsuit pending against her?
No, ma'am.
Did you file a claim with her insurance?
I had not filed a formal claim with her insurance company. What I had done was I had consulted a lawyer who put in a request to her insurance company about this situation at hand, and that's as far as it went.
Okay, so your lawyer sent a letter, and the insurance company sent a letter that they were not accepting your claim because they say based on information that they have that you intentionally put your arm through a window. Now I'm going to look through the police report. Okay. Let me hear your version of these events, Mr. Jackson.
Yes, ma'am. On the morning, well, on the day that this thing occurred, I was crossing the street. I just stopped some kids from fighting. This was a school zone, total school zone. There's a big school there. I crossed the street. I'm on the sidewalk walking down the street. I'm going to visit my son at his mom's house. All of a sudden, she pulls up on the side of me, blowing her horn erratically and waving her hands. Then she rolls her window down and begins yelling and screaming and cursing at me. I asked her one time, I said, "Who are you and what do you want?"
She's in her car on the street.
"Yes, ma'am." And I tell her, I said, "What is it that you want from me?" I don't even know you. At that time, she says, don't worry about it. And she speeds off. I kept walking down towards the entrance of these apartments. I didn't think anything else about her at this moment. I'm walking with a bunch of kids around me. Like I say, it's in the school zone, and the kids are just out of school. Right at the moment when I go inside of the gate of these apartments, all of a sudden I hear a car pull up behind me, and the tires are like dragging. At that time, she rolls her window down and yells at me, was there something that you want to say to me? So-and-so and so-and-so, just cursing me all out. I looked at her again, and I go, I can't believe that you came back. What is it that you want? Who are you? I don't even know you. She said, I should have ran you over before, and I will run you over now. So she backs her car up a little bit, cuts the wheels, and runs over me. At that time, when she hit me, the side of her car spent me around, and my arm went through her window, causing the window to break. I left there and went running through the apartments to go and try to get some help.
So according to your statement, Mr. Jackson, this person that you didn't know at all
Yes, ma'am.
was driving down the street
Yes, ma'am, pretty much.
and for no earthly reason whatsoever stopped her car at some
Yes,
point
ma'am.
to verbally berate you and then assault you. That's what you're telling me.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jackson, she doesn't appear to me to be psychotic. She was coming from work, which I assume means that she wasn't drunk. Now, I want you to hold out your arm, sir, and show me where the glass was on your arm.
Where the glass was?
Yes.
It was around my
Elbow.
right.
Okay. And so you're telling me that she ran over your feet,
She ran over my feet. Yes, ma'am.
which the police say they saw no indication of tire marks or anything else on your shoes. I just don't understand how, if she ran over your feet, your elbow was injured.
It wasn't like that at all, Your Honor.
How was it, Mr. Jackson?
She pulled up behind me in the driveway of this apartment.
Yes.
She backed up, and when she ran over me, the side of her car mirror hit me and spent me around. Then she backed up across the street and tried to run over me again.
It's getting better. Do you have a hospital report, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see it, please? I'm looking through these papers because you say that you were hit on the side by her mirror. There is no indication in the hospital chart of any bruise on your side, sir.
They didn't have any bruises on my feet either, Your Honor.
That's right,
But
they
I
didn't.
still got ran over by them.
I'm telling you, they have absolutely no bruises on your feet, none whatsoever.
They gave me x-rays at the hospital stating that none of my bones were broken, but my feet were swollen.
Oh, let's see if they say that. Did they say that anywhere in the hospital records?
They got it documented
Let's
on
see. The laceration was in your elbow.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see anything about swollen feet. Didn't say you could.
It should be in there.
Well, I don't see it, sir. Now, the only other thing I have to ask you, Miss Baylock, is, am I correct that at one point you actually drove your car up on the sidewalk?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you do that?
Because I was scared of him.
It's dangerous, Miss Baylock, to go
it was
up on-
dangerous for me to be, you know, in that situation with him.
I understand that. You shouldn't have gone up on the
I
grass.
feel as though I was wrong, but I had no choice.
You
After
may-
he struck me once, I felt as though he was going to yank me out of the car or something. He was very
No.
irate.
He hadn't struck you yet when you went up on the grass. Hadn't struck you yet, according to you. You went up on the grass, and then he approached your car.
But,
in
Your
the
Honor,
window.
the reason why I tried to proceed to get away from him is because he was cursing and approaching my car.
Right.
I
Your
tried
Honor,
to get
she's
away
not
from him
telling
before
you.
he approached my car.
She's
I
not
understand.
telling you what happened.
Cost of replacing your window is $179.75. Is that right?
Yes.
Your Honor,
Mr.
she
Jackson,
left the scene.
Mr. Jackson, she did not leave the scene. She
She
came
left
back.
the scene.
Shh. She flagged down the police and brought them back. If somebody just runs over somebody's legs, they don't do that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount
Your
of
Honor, I'm also suing him
$179.70.
for my rental car.
And I'm
Okay,
denying
that-
that, madam. $179.75. You can replace a window in a half a day. You shouldn't have been up on the sidewalk. That's
No,
all.
I.
Why does that excuse you? May step out.
My arm, I got 36 stitches, I got 10 puncture wounds, and I'm paralyzed from my wrist down to my elbow.
He tried to sue me for over $10,000. Basically, I don't have any money for him, but he caused those injuries on his own, and that's good for him.
I want to see my medical bills paid, and I don't want to see her no more.
And now the next case.
All parties on Leyva versus Rodriguez. Step forward, please.
28-year-old bank teller supervisor Cheyenne Leyva is suing 18-year-old Gabriel Rodriguez for damage to her car caused by a water balloon.
So you're driving around in your brand new van.
Right.
How many days old is your van?
It's about a day and a half old. I got it on Thursday night, and this happened Saturday afternoon.
Brand new?
Right.
And there are a bunch of idiot teenagers that, for sport, are throwing things at cars.
Right. We were driving down the road, and we heard two loud dents, and so I stopped the car and got out of the van to see what happened. My little sister said they ran this way. They were on, there's like a low block wall and an office complex. They started running into the office complex.
How many of them?
3.
And they were apprehended.
Right. We chased them. They ran into their house. I was on the phone with the police the whole time. We waited, and the police got there. They knocked on the door. Gabe had tried to, he jumped the back fence and started to walk off, but the police went and got him.
No. You had damage to this brand new van.
Right. There was 2 dents in the side door.
And how much was the damage?
It was about $540.
Now, 2 of the young men, one paid their third in full.
Right. And the other one paid half.
And is paying slowly.
Right.
But Mr. Rodriguez over here says, I'm not paying.
Right. Well, he said he would at first, but now all of a sudden he says he's not responsible.
He says he's not paying because his balloon missed.
That's right.
And there were only 2 dents in the car.
Right.
Right? Now, what prompted you and your idiot friends to engage in this kind of conduct?
We had nothing else better to do.
Was that during the week?
It was on Saturday.
You had nothing to do on Saturday?
No, man.
How'd you get a job?
Should do that.
What were you throwing?
We were throwing water balloons at each other for the day. And then we got tired of throwing them, so then we just lost them over the wall when we saw the car. And we hit the car.
Did you say we hit the car?
Well, there was 4 of us.
Yes.
And then when we threw it, I watched my water balloon, and mine went right over the top. And my 2 friends, there was 4 of us, and we threw 4 water balloons, and 2 out of 4 hit the car.
Okay. And you watched yours very carefully, and yours missed. So therefore, you're not responsible for the damage.
Yes.
Wrong! Let me see the estimate for the damage. Fool. An idiot. Maybe he can't find a job. $531. Make it $532, this change. Divided by 3.
$177.33.
Co-conspirators to commit the act of vandalism. That's what you were. Co-conspirators. Right?
Right.
You mean because of the Earth's spin and gravity and luck, maybe your balloon didn't hit? You're not responsible?
I feel I'm not.
You still feel as if you're not?
Yeah.
Were you alone?
No, I had my little sister with me, who's 13, my husband, and my baby, my 8-month-old baby, and my 4-year-old daughter.
So let's say, Mr. Rodriguez, that all you idiots threw your balloons over, a couple of them hit. The plaintiff swerves. It's a wall, and her baby is severely injured. Would you be responsible?
Yes.
Why do you think you'd be responsible if your balloon didn't hit?
Because I helped doing it.
Right. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $177.33. I just wanted him to see.
Right. That's why I was so mad.
Right. He may still not see,
Probably
but maybe
not.
he does. Fool.
Yeah, definitely.
18-year-old fool, not 6 years old,
Right.
throwing water balloons. 18 years old throwing water balloons. Get a job.
Thank you.
Party is excused. You may step out. Now, this is case number 378 on the calendar in the matter of McPhillips versus Dunkel. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Miss McPhillips, the defendant used to be your boyfriend.
Yes.
According to your complaint, he was arrested on a charge of assaulting another girlfriend,
Over there.
and you bailed him out.
Yes.
He says that you may have physically gone down to pay the bail, but it was not paid with your money, it was his aunt's money.
That's right.
Okay. When he was arrested, were you still dating?
Yes.
What date was he arrested?
May 25th.
And how did you find out that he was arrested?
His sister and her boyfriend called me at work and told me that they came to his house and arrested him.
And what did you do?
I left work and we went to his aunt's house, who then gave his sister money for his lawyer.
Oh, no.
Shh. Just a minute.
And then her boyfriend gave another $200
Just a
for
sec.
his lawyer.
You went to an aunt's house?
Yes.
And at the aunt's house, you all picked up some money?
Yes.
How much money?
His aunt and her fiance gave $300, and Chris Maxey gave $200.
Chris is the boyfriend?
Of Dina, yes.
So that was $500 altogether?
Yes, for his lawyer.
But then he's still in jail, so what happened with his bail?
The next day, we went to a court hearing, and they said that his bail was $1,000.
And what did you do then?
Me and Dina and Chris all then went to my bank and took the money out of the bank. And then
Out of your bank?
Yes.
And you have proof of that?
I don't have my bank records because it was back in May, and I had $1,003.24 in the bank. And I took out the money, and so the account was closed. And I didn't think I needed proof because I assumed he would give it back like he said he would.
Miss McPhillips, that sounds like the most ridiculous answer. If you know you're suing somebody, and you know there's an issue, and you have bank statements that you receive each month, then that's the one piece of evidence that it would seem to me that you would bring.
It was back in May.
So what? We're not talking about 20 years ago. We're talking about 6 months ago.
And I didn't file the claim till November because that was
So?
when his court date was, and I didn't think that I needed the statement in May or I would have gotten one.
You get a statement from a bank every month.
Yes, but I don't keep them. And so I don't have the one from May. But I have the piece of paper saying that I am the one who gave the people the money that bailed him out. Why would I be
That's
suing
not-
him for money that wasn't mine?
We're going to
Well,
find out in a
same
minute.
thing.
Go ahead, Mr. Dunkel.
Yeah, like she said, I was arrested. My sister and her boyfriend, Chris, were at my house when the police picked me up. I called my aunt that night from jail and told her they'll set my bail the next morning. She said, I asked her, if she could bail me out, and she said, sure, that's no problem.
That is a lie.
Shh, 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 shh.
Well,
Where's your aunt?
The next
Where's your
day,
aunt?
She's at home. She runs a home daycare. She wasn't able to be here. I have a statement here written from her.
I don't take statements written
Okay.
from witnesses.
Okay.
Where is your aunt's bank statement that shows me that she withdrew $1,000 from a bank?
She had it in cash. The next day, my bail was set for $1,000. My sister, Chris, and Brandy went to my aunt's house. My aunt gave them the money, $1,000 to bail me out of jail. They went to the police station. Brandy, Dina, and Chris went to the police station. I don't know why Brandy was entrusted with the money to bail me out, probably because she was my girlfriend at the time. But she gave them the money. They gave them the bond receipt. So the bond receipt's in her name, so I think she's
understand that the bond
entitled
receipt's in her
to...
name.
Okay, but if his aunt
Entitled
gave the
to the
money, then why
$1,000.
wouldn't they have given it to Dina?
just a
She's his
second.
sister.
Just-
When his aunt trusts Dina with the money?
Madam,
More than
you're
me?
not standing there in a very good place, because all you had to do to be successful today was to bring me a bank statement. That's all you had to do.
I didn't keep it. I didn't think I'd need it. I thought that he would pay me back like he told me he was going to.
But then you knew he was not going to pay you back, and you knew you were coming to court.
But I already didn't have
Listen
the
to me.
statement.
What do you mean you already didn't have a statement? You called the
'Cause
bank and you said, I need
The account
May's
was
statement.
closed, so they wouldn't give me a statement.
That's not true.
I
That's
did call
not-
the bank, and
What?
they wouldn't give me a statement since the account had been closed for 6 months.
Do you know that I don't believe that?
That's the truth.
All right, I'm going to hear you witnesses, because so far, a lot of what you told me, sir, is hearsay. Who was present when the aunt turned over this $1,000? Step up. Tell me your name.
Dina Van Grunsven.
So, what happened?
Basically, we showed up at my aunt's house after we went to his court hearing, and my aunt handed Brandy the money and said...
That is a lie.
Shh. And we got back in Chris's car. We went down there. Brandy ran out and paid for his bond.
What time was the bail hearing on the 26th?
At 9 o'clock.
Shh. And what time was he bailed out?
5 o'clock, around 5.
So you knew the exact date of the withdrawal. It had to be on the 26th of May.
It was around 1 o'clock in the afternoon because I had to wait for my friend who was living with me at the time to bring down my driver's license because they wouldn't let me withdraw the money out of the bank without my driver's license, even though my
Okay.
signature matched.
All right. I want you to do this. I want you to get the telephone number of the bank, get on the phone with the bank manager. You tell the bank manager that you are in court now. You would like them to research their record and just be able to tell the court, that's me, whether on the 26th of May of the year 2000 there was a $1,000 withdrawal from your savings account. Now, the two of you would agree that if there was $1,000 withdrawn from her savings account on the 26th, that would pretty much establish that you're lying, right?
Right.
So there's no issue with regard to that, right?
Unless it
I don't-
pay your bills. I don't know. I got my aunt's phone number right here. You can call her and
Why
just
would
talk
I
to...
want to believe
'Cause
your
there's
aunt
my-
over
that's
the
my prime
telephone?
witness. You know,
See, if
she
your
gave me
prime
the money.
witness is supposed to be here, sir,
Well,
you
she
would
runs a
agree,
daycare, she
sir, since you weren't there, that if the bank manager, who I'm sure will be cooperative with me,
Okay. he
because
can cooperate with
they're always cooperative with me, and he certainly is disinterested,
you. Okay.
will tell me that she withdrew $1,000 from her account on the 26th, that would mean that you and all your relatives and all your friends are lying, right? And
Not necessarily.
Oh, yes.
Well,
of
why
course.
would they give you the
Of
bank
course.
statement and they wouldn't give their own, their own customer the bank statement?
Why? Because it's much harder to say no to me. Miss McPhillips, did you get the number?
Yes, I did.
May I have it, please? You sure you want to continue with this?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. All right.
Let me see.
Yes, can I have extension 426, please? Thank you. Yes, this is Judge Judy Scheindlin. I'm calling because I'm in the midst of trying a case involving one of your clients, Miss McPhillips, Brandy McPhillips. And the main issue in the case revolves around a withdrawal made from her savings account on the 26th of May. Can you tell me if there was a withdrawal? There was. And that was the total amount of the withdrawal. Wonderful. Thank you very much. I appreciate your trouble. Bye-bye. I just love it when everybody's lying a little bit. Miss McPhillips, you did, in fact, make a withdrawal on that
For
day.
$850.
Well, that's not what you told me initially. Miss
I tried
McPhillips,
to
just
tell
listen
you
to me.
that I had $150 cash,
No,
but you
Miss
didn't let me
McPhillips,
finish.
listen to me carefully. You didn't try to tell me anything. What you told me was you had $1,003 in your savings account. You withdrew $1,000, leaving you $3 left. That's what you told me. You didn't try to tell me anything else. However, you did withdraw on the 26th $850. And I'm looking at the bail receipt. The bail receipt, they're so smart. They list the denominations of the bills. 800s, 150. Then there is 110 and 720s. So we got to get it straight. You withdrew the $850. Now, where did you get the extra cash from?
I work at a bar on the weekends, and that was my tip money from the week before.
So how do you have tip money when you...
Don't speak to her! Liar, liar, pants on fire. Don't speak to her. You step up
Very
here.
good.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a debt consolidation
You're what?
counselor. A debt counselor.
You're supposed to be honest when you're a debt counselor.
I am honest.
Not today, you weren't.
Yes, I am.
Oh, no, you weren't.
Yes, I am.
You were lying.
No, ma'am.
Oh, yes, you are. Because, you see, based upon the fib that you told me, you and Mr. Wonderful over here,
Thank
you all went to the aunt's house, all of you, and you took Auntie's money and you went and paid the bail with Auntie's money and you just handed the money to her. It seems unreasonable and unfathomable why, with her boyfriend in jail, she would go and withdraw practically all the money she had in the bank and then go out on a spending spree or decide to pay her bills from her savings account.
What, she can't take money out of her savings account to pay her bills?
Are you asking me a question?
Well,
Are you asking me a question?
no, I guess I'm not.
You sure aren't. Who do you work for?
Greater Nebraska Tree Service?
So you deal with trees.
Yes, I do.
Well, you don't always have to be honest with trees, but you should be honest if you're in debt
I'm honest
consolidation.
here today.
I am honest.
Let me tell you something. Not only I am aware of the fact that you are dishonest because you perjured yourself, but there'll be 10 million people who will agree with me. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
You lied.
They were made fools of. They lied.
Never trust a woman.
Obviously, some people aren't worth trusting.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Flamini versus Warner. Step forward, please.
18-year-old telemarketer Makil Flamini is suing former landlord, 54-year-old homemaker Carol Warner, for return of rent. Makil says Carol's compulsive behavior caused her to move.
Miss Flamini, you rented a room in the defendant's home. According to your complaint, you lived there for one day. Things were so intolerable, you moved out and you want your rent back.
Correct.
It's Miss Warner's contention that you had no basis to leave and she's not returning any of your money. So I have a few basic questions.
Okay.
How did you find the room to rent?
I met Carol through a friend of mine from school, and he introduced me to her, and I went over to her house. And when I first came into the house, I was like, I can't live here. But then I met her, and I really like Carol. I still really do.
All right. You met her through a friend.
Right.
You went to her house. According to you, the house was a mess.
Right. I have a
The
picture.
rent was $489 a month, according to your complaint.
Yes.
Plus doing some cleanup for her.
Right.
Okay. You have some photographs?
I have, a photograph of, you can see in the background what it kind of was like.
I can see everything. Okay. Very good. So you got to the house and?
And later that night, it was Halloween, it was October 31st, we agreed on the phone that I would come back that night and we would start cleaning up the house. So I got back there and I tried to clean up. Like, I would pick up paper towel off the ground and throw it away, and she'd be like, no, you can't throw that away. I use that to clean the floor. And she'd make me wash my hands every time I touched a dirty dish. There was a piece of paper with the number 3 on it and like scribbles, and I crumpled it up to throw away, and she's like, you can't throw that away, that goes on this pile. And it was just, she wouldn't let me clean, and that was, our verbal agreement was I would live with her and help her clean up her house if she let me stay there.
Okay. Did you move in on the 31st of October?
I never moved anything in. I just stayed there to clean.
That night?
I stayed that night, yes.
Okay. And did you leave November 1st?
Yes.
Now, Miss Warner. Miss Warner.
I'm listening. I'm just surprised at her statement.
Okay. Had you previously, immediately previous to the plaintiff moving in with you, had you had a roommate?
I don't think so.
What do you mean you don't think so?
No, I did not.
The answer is you did not have a roommate.
Correct.
When was the last time you had a roommate?
Oh, maybe 6 months before then.
And she lived there for one day?
I think it was actually 2 days. Because the day that she came...
The day that she came was October 31st, which was the day she gave you the
she
check.
came the day before, Your Honor, with her friend, to look at the place and see if it was okay for her to live in.
But then she came and she slept there on October 31st.
Correct.
Correct?
Yes.
And she left November 1st.
I'm not sure of that either.
Well, if you're not sure, she said she was there one day, so I have to assume she's correct. So my question to you, Miss Warner, is if it didn't work out, and you certainly didn't turn away any other boarders, why don't you give her back her $489?
Because I did turn away other people, Your Honor.
When did you turn people away?
Actually on the 30th, when she said, okay, I'm going to go to the bank with my friend, and she opened an account in order to use a West Hollywood address and to establish residence, as she herself said.
So what? Different. I don't know what
Okay,
you're
I'm just
talking about,
giving you
Miss
an
Warner.
answer.
All right, now we're talking a couple of months later. Do you have a roommate?
No, I do not.
Right. You have to give her back her money.
Why is that?
I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
I don't want to go into all the reasons she says your house was a mess. Evidently, this was a young lady who wanted very badly to rent a room in your house because, according to both of you, she ran out and she said, no, I want to give you the check today because I really want this room.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So there had to be a very good reason why, after one day of living with you, she said, this is not going to work.
Why don't you ask her what the reason is?
If you want me to, Miss Warner.
I'll ask her.
No, you don't have to ask her. I'll ask her. I asked the questions.
Okay, sorry.
I was trying to save you embarrassment.
I'm not embarrassed in the slightest, but she saw
So,
the
go
home
ahead.
before she moved in.
Go ahead.
Well, she wouldn't let me clean. I couldn't even, the bed that she had the room for me, I couldn't take her papers off the bed. I had to actually sleep on the side of the bed. I woke up to Carol staring at me. She was sitting in a chair staring at me. And I was uneasy, and I was like, I cannot live here. I just could not live in that situation.
Why was it such a mess?
It's not such a mess. It's totally, she's just supposed to help me with my dishes.
Were there papers all over the bed that you were sleeping on?
No.
Did you go into her room and were you sitting in her room at some point?
No, that's a total lie. She just, all she did was change her mind about wanting to live there, and then the lie
Why
happened.
do you think, Miss Warner, she changed her mind within a 24-hour period?
Probably because she found a place that she could rent at a pretty good price, and she wanted her own place.
Miss Warner, you are mistaken. I find that you have suffered absolutely no financial damage as a result of her not living there. You didn't turn away other prospective boarders. I don't believe that you turned away other prospective boarders because it's months later and you still don't have a boarder in your house. You look like two very nice young ladies, but you can't keep the $489, madam. It's outrageous.
If she had rented some other else, like actually rented a home, that landlord wouldn't give her money back just because she changed her mind the same day.
I didn't.
Madam,
or the day
I
later.
believe her when she says that living in your home, that you are a clutter collector.
It's not true.
I believe that you are a clutter collector and that circumstances in your home for that brief period that she lived there made her believe that her life in your home was going to be untenable.
She decided she wanted to live on her own, and she saw the place before she moved in. She decided to live there and to
She
help
didn't
me
live with
the
you
housework.
for 24 hours.
couldn't
Judgment
live
for the
with you,
plaintiff
Carol.
in the amount of $489. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Here's your scoop.
This is case number 342 on the calendar in the matter of Bridges versus Kimbrough. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
You're Mrs. Bridges?
Yes, ma'am.
And who are you?
I'm Mr. Bridges, David.
Well, you weren't there during the course of this incident that brings us to court today.
No, ma'am.
Is that right? So why don't you have a seat?
Okay.
Tell me your first name.
Brittany.
Brittany, you have a boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
Your boyfriend is her stepson.
Yes, ma'am.
Is your boyfriend here today?
Yes, ma'am.
Boyfriend. According to your complaint, you were at the defendant's house. You were having an argument with your boyfriend. The argument got kind of loud. The defendant, his stepmother, came outside. There was some sort of an altercation, and at the end of this altercation, according to you, the defendant burned up all of your CDs.
Yes, ma'am.
You are suing for the value of those CDs and also some mental anguish. And she has a rather interesting defense to the CDs, although she acknowledges she burned them, correct?
That's right.
When did this incident occur?
July 3rd.
And you were at the defendant's home.
Yes, ma'am.
What were you doing there?
Me and my boyfriend went up there to go swimming
How long has he been your boyfriend?
for nearly 2 years.
So you know the defendant very well.
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume that you had always had a nice relationship with her.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened on this particular day when you went over there to go swimming?
Well, me and him got into an argument, and she came out there and was asking, she was in our argument, and...
What did she say?
She was just trying to, ask us what was going on, and we told her, and she was like, well, y'all need to be fighting and all this. Then she started getting ill with Rodney. So Rodney...
She started to get what?
Ill, and was just starting to holler at Rodney.
Where was this argument taking place, Brittany?
We were walking down from the pool house when me and him was arguing, going to the house, and then she came outside.
Were you yelling? Were
No,
you
ma'am.
raising your voices?
No, ma'am.
What were you arguing about?
The tanning bed.
Tanning bed?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that.
We were arguing who was going to get him first. It was stupid.
Okay. So she came out and she started hollering at the boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
Her stepson.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And then Rodney just told her that we wanted to leave. So he went to the house and got all of his clothes and put them in his car, and her car was parked behind his car, which was in the garage. And it was blocked in, and he asked her, you know, he said, will you move your car? And she said, no, y'all are not leaving. He said, yes, we can leave if we want to. And she said, no, I'd like to see y'all leave. So that time, Rodney just said, look, I'm going to call your mom and see if we can call the police to get my car out of the way. And so we walked over to the side of the house and called the police. And that time, she had walked over there and got in his car and got all of his clothes and my CDs. We didn't know what was going on. Then her granddaughter and grandson came over there and told us that she was burning all of our stuff.
What happened next?
We ran over there, and Rodney kicked over the 55-gallon drum to see if anything was saved, and everything was burned.
Was there a fire in the 55-gallon
Yes,
drum?
ma'am.
What was in the fire?
All his clothes and my CDs.
So what happened after you saw your stuff burning?
Well, she was yelling at me, trying to fight me.
What do you mean try to fight you?
She told me, when we went up to the fire, she was like, get off my property, and we were like, okay, and then she was chasing me out into the road, trying to fight me, for I don't know what reason.
All right, Miss Kimbrough, let me hear your version of these events.
Okay, they were out in the yard fighting. First, my husband went out, and he couldn't stop them, so I went out, and they had went back up to the pool. And I asked them what happened, and Brittany said it was her fault. And I said, Rodney, no matter whose fault it is, you don't need to be talking to her like that, and you don't need to be cussing. Our neighbors...
Is that what he was doing? He was cursing?
Very badly. Both of them were cursing. And I told them not to do that because our neighbors had called and could hear them, and our 2 grandchildren was there and heard it. So they came running back down to the house, and Rodney went into the bathroom, got his clothes out of the dryer, and he said he was leaving. But now his car was in my carport because it wouldn't run. It wouldn't even crank. So I knew he couldn't go nowhere, but I did ask him to leave. And my daughter Summer had came up, and something had happened earlier that day that I don't really know, but Brittany and Rodney and Summer were arguing. Well, when she came up, they started again. And I was trying to stop them, and when Summer walked over, Rodney pushed her back, and then when he pushed Summer, I started over there, and he just, you know, pushed me. And when Brittany was cussing us, Rodney was standing there with his hands out like this, letting her cuss. And I just said, would you please call your mother to come get you, Brittany? So Rodney looked at his daddy and said something really bad. And I don't know if, you know, I should say that, but it was really said no effing body could whip him. And then he looked at me and he told me something really bad that it's hard to say, but he took off running when he said it. And I got mad when he said that because it hurt me because I'd really been good to Rodney.
How long have you been married?
We've been married 13 years, but now we've raised Rodney most of those years he's been with us. And I grabbed his clothes, what few he had gotten out of the dryer, and I took them up to the barn and I burned them. And the CDs that was in there, I didn't see those when I grabbed the clothes. They just got mixed up because they was in the front seat of the car. And when I threw them over, I saw the case. It was a very small little CD case. And they were not Brittany's CDs.
How do you know that?
Well, they were Rodney's, and they was, you know, in his car.
How do you know that?
Well, they had his name on them.
She says that they were her CDs.
No,
but in a
ma'am.
case that had his name on it.
It said Rodney Loves Brittany on the case. It didn't have just his name on it. I've got his CD case here, and I've got the CDs that was burned, the cases for them, what I had.
She had not said anything about the CDs at all until later that night when her stepdad called me and asked me for $600 to pay for the CDs.
I've got the burnt CDs too.
No, I believe that they were her CDs.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This one is called Mo Thugs, DMX, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood. Did you ever hear of Barry Manilow?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 16-year-old Brittany Manis says her boyfriend's stepmother, Jackie Kimbrough, burned her CDs.
What's important is, Miss Kimbrough, you're the mother. You acted out of anger when you burned the stuff. And certainly, I'm not excusing young kids who were outside in front of your house, embarrassing you in front of your neighbors, cursing. Otherwise, there would have been no reason for you, nor your husband, to become involved. According to Brittany, you had always had a pleasant relationship. So you think she was just having a bad day, or were you and Rodney outside?
We weren't cursing.
No?
No, ma'am.
Well, what do you think Mr. Kimbrell came outside for?
We weren't cursing. We might have been raising our voice, but we wasn't
Okay, so now we're raising voices. So first you told me you weren't raising voices, now you're raising voices. Did Rodney say something to his dad that was nasty?
Well, he said it to her, to
He said it
Jackie.
to both of us. He said
He
it
hugged
to
his
Roger.
dad and said it to Jackie.
Were you outside when he said that?
Yes, ma'am.
There were neighbors who lived close by?
I don't know how close. I don't know if there's somebody that lives right next door, but I know somebody lives in the trailer down the road.
There was a neighbor sitting directly across the house from me. His trailer sits in front, and he was sitting in his yard.
There isn't a question in my mind, Miss Kimbrell, that these CDs belong to Brittany. How many CDs were in your case?
31.
31?
Yes, ma'am.
How large was this case?
It was about this big, but we had them back to back, like 2 or 3 CDs in one little packet.
How do you know there were 31 CDs in there?
Because I've got all the CD cases that I had in there, most of them.
What do you mean most of them?
That's just most of the CD cases that I have that I haven't lost. But I've written down all the names of the CDs.
Let me see them.
It was a very small CD case.
I think, Miss Kimbrell, you were probably
Here's
so
Rodney's
angry.
CD case, and here's the list.
You didn't much care what the CD case looked like. You just made a big grab
I was
for
very
everything.
upset.
You just made a
Things he
big
said to
grab
me,
for
but it
everything.
wasn't
Here's the
small
list of
case.
the CDs.
These are the cases that are now empty. Is that
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
So we have 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 empty cases. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. That's the ones that I could find.
Now, those are the only ones you're going to get. Now, you have a bill for these? How much were they?
We found the approximate amount for the 31 that was in there.
Forget 31. You have proof of these, 14. Let me see what kids listen to. 18 rock hard hits, 504 boys, B-O-Y-Z.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Booty Mix 4.
They've never been allowed to listen to him at my house.
This one is called Mo Thugs.
That has
Some
2
guys
CDs.
look like I sentenced a couple of years ago. Dr. Dre.
Yeah, that's right.
Is he a physician?
Not really.
Master P. Now, here are 4 normal-looking girls.
Destiny's Child.
Very nice-looking girls. Normal. DMX. Flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood. What happened to Benny Goodman?
He was replaced by Bootleg Booty.
Bootleg Booty. Oh, Master P again. Who's the big fan of Master P?
Me.
You are.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever hear of Barry Manilow?
No, ma'am.
Never heard of Barry Manilow?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, if you're asking me about the worth of these albums, since you don't have receipts for them, right?
We don't usually keep our receipts for CDs.
How much do they cost?
On the average, about $15 a CD.
$210, 14 times 15, that's the average. What are you doing sitting over there? Who did you come to court with today?
Brittany?
Your Honor, I tell you the reason Rodney's here today is because he was threatened by David and Tammy to come to court, or at the time this happened, Brittany was 15 and Rodney was 19, and if Rodney will admit to telling the truth, this is what was said. They said that they was going to get him for a statutory rape if he didn't come to court and be a witness for Brittany, and said they'd never let him see Brittany again.
Your Honor, that is not true.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 16-year-old Brittany Manis says her boyfriend's stepmother, Jackie Kimbrell, burned her CDs.
Okay. On the CDs, you're going to get $210. Forget your mental anguish.
My bathing suit. top, my bathing suit top and my picture, she still hasn't returned.
Do you have any of that stuff?
I have her bathing suit top, but she came in the house and got everything else.
No, ma'am, I did not
that
go in
belonged
their
to her.
house.
Whatever, I don't have anything else in the complaint about anything else. You have a bathing suit top? Give her a bathing suit top. Okay. As far as your lawsuit, which seeks damages for mental anguish of $1,500 because you saw your CDs burn, you better go and wash out your mouth, and when you learn not to cuss at adults, then we'll talk about mental anguish. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They had a pretty good argument, and I went out to break it up, and like I said, they just kind of turned on us.
I don't care what they said to them or cussed or whatever. They're adults and they're children.
I just hope everybody can get along now.
And now the next case.
All parties on Trimble versus Maurer. Step forward, please.
41-year-old accountant Julie Trimble is suing her ex-boyfriend, 34-year-old handyman Jeffrey Maurer, for a series of unpaid loans to pay his bills.
All right, let's cut to the chase, Miss Trimble. You lived with this man for 3 years, according to your complaint, and say that over the course of the 3 years, he built up a debt to you for miscellaneous bills and expenses. He finally decided to leave sometime in October of this year. He gave you a check, packed his bags, and left.
Correct.
And now you went over all your bills, and you want him to pay a whole bunch of money that he hadn't paid over the 3 years you were living together.
Correct.
Did he ever sign a note to you?
No, ma'am, he did not.
Did he ever sign a lease with you?
No, ma'am, he did not.
Did you have a lease agreement with him, even though it wasn't in writing?
No, ma'am, I did not.
So what do you think he owes you for?
Over the course of 3 years, I just basically went back from last December. He was living with me. We were boyfriend and girlfriend, and he had agreed to pay a third of the rent and the utilities because it was myself, my daughter, and him living there. And he also had incurred a lot of personal expenses that he didn't have the means to pay at the time. So I loaned him money on just various things, paying for his utility bills at a house that he was refurbishing.
Well, what was the repayment agreement? If you say you made these loans to him, what was the repayment agreement?
That I would pay these bills for him and he would pay me as soon as he got back on his feet.
What if he never got back on his feet?
Well, his whole contention is that he was rebuilding this house of his and he was going to sell the house, and he also had a truck that he was trying to sell, and with those proceeds he was to reimburse me for all of these expenses. I have a ledger that I made up for him. I used to give him periodically, plus I have backup of all of the utilities, the groceries, all of the personal checks.
Miss Trimble, we don't do that in court. If two people decide to live together without benefit of marriage, and then they break up, which they do more than 50% of the time, probably more than 80% of the time, and then come to courts and say, listen, we lived together for 3 years, we lived together for 10 years. During that time, I paid for this, and he was supposed to pay me back, and he never did, and that was 3 years ago or 5 years ago. If you expect courts to get involved with that, you're barking up the wrong court. I tell you that. Put your hand down. I didn't ask you anything.
Yes, sir.
Good. Women do this. It seems to be women do it a lot more often than men. Women say, I'll take care of him. He promised as soon as his uncle straightens out, he's going to give you the money. As soon as he puts his life in order. As soon as he gets the house built. As soon as he sells the truck. Some people never get their lives in order, Miss Trimble.
Right. Well,
And he did give you a check when he left.
Yes, he did.
And in what amount was that check?
That check was for $2,200.
He said it was $2,800. You have the check?
Yes, I have the check here, and
I'd
yes,
like to see it.
I was mistaken. It is $2,200.
Can I see it, please?
And also 2 other checks that I gave her within weeks of leaving anyway. So I actually gave her over $3,000.
Who crossed out paid in full?
I did when I cashed the check.
No, you can't do that, Miss Trimble.
He hadn't paid me in full.
No, Miss Trimble, you can't do that, madam. What you are alleging is that over the course of 3 years, you advanced money to this man.
Correct.
And he gave you a check at the time you terminated your living arrangement, and he had written on the check, loan payoff paid in full. You accepted the check, and then you cashed it. If you choose not to accept this check as full payment of all loans, you don't cash it. Give it back to him.
Well,
and let me finish. Okay. And you say to him, I'm not accepting this check give me another check that just says partial payment on loans, and then we have an agreement that this was partial payment on the loan. But you cannot take a check and change the face of the check and cash it and say he still owes me more money. You can't do that.
Well, at the time that he had given me that check, he left it laying on my table, moved out, and I had no way to get a hold of him. So my only best interest was to go there, cash the check at his bank the next morning when they opened, so I would at least be guaranteed part of the money that he owed me.
And that's what you were guaranteed, and that's what you're going to get. Period. Who are you?
I'm a friend of hers.
You know anything about the law?
No, I don't.
Good.
But I'd like to add something, Your Honor.
About
You're
what?
saying the loan. Rent and
just a
utilities are not loans.
Thank you very much. I didn't ask for an instruction in the law. The law is that you accept a check in full payment of all outstanding loans, and you've accepted that check. You cannot change that check and say, it's not all that you owe me. Now you owe me more. So, Ms. Trimble, be smarter the next time. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out. This is case number 451 on the calendar in the matter of Urino versus Long. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. and Mrs. Urino, you and the defendant are neighbors.
Yes.
You built your home with the expectation of being able to run a business out of your home.
Yes.
And that business was selling used cars.
Yes, ma'am.
You invested a substantial amount of money building driveways and paving areas in order to comply with city regulations.
Yes, ma'am.
Thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yes.
And when you applied for your permit to sell these used cars from your property, according to you, the defendant, as well as other neighbors, objected and were very vocal about their opposition to you selling used cars from your house, as a result of which you were denied a permit. And that started the trouble.
Your Honor, we weren't denied. We were approved first.
And then denied because of him and the neighbors.
So first you were approved, and then because of the opposition, denied.
One guy showed up and
appealed.
Appealed it.
And who was that?
Another neighbor.
Another neighbor.
Another neighbor.
Good.
Yes. He's next.
Now that started the difficulty with you and the defendant.
Yes, ma'am.
One of the things that you were particularly angry about is that this particular defendant runs a carpet cleaning business from his home.
Yes, ma'am.
So you say, how can he object to my business when he runs a business out of his home?
Yes, ma'am.
And then all kinds of things started. You claimed that he was dumping some stuff from his carpet cleaning business into the town sewers, and you were taking photographs of that, and arguments ensued, and you want damages because of the constant harassment by the defendants. Now, who's going to speak? You
I'll
are.
speak.
I assumed you would.
Yes.
So, Mrs. Urino, I'd like you to tell me, what is the basis for your lawsuit?
Okay, the basis for our lawsuit is harassment.
Give me the date.
The date is June 7th.
Okay, what happened on June 7th?
He came over to our property. We had taken a picture of him because it was like about 11:30, quarter to midnight. It was the night that we got denied.
It was the night that you were denied your permit?
Yes.
So what did you do?
We were out riding around because we were upset. Okay.
No, they were out.
I'll get to you in a second. All right. So you were very upset.
Yes,
Permits
we were
denied.
upset. So we went to the store, we're coming home, and we see all this commotion behind our home. This man has run his business for 2 years. We never said a word, never complained. Well, we had it up to here. We went around the corner. I snapped 2 pictures of his. He had 5 employees out there, his 11-year-old daughter, 3 of his vans, a tow truck. I've got a photo of it. He had them all out there in the front yard, making all kinds of racket. So, snapped the 2 pictures, didn't say a word to anybody, went back to my house around the block. He comes skidding around the corner so fast. He starts cussing at my husband. He didn't get out in the beginning. He just had the window rolled down. So he started cussing. My husband got upset because they were cussing at each other, right? So he gets out of the van, and I thought they were going to fight. So I'm backing up towards the house. Meanwhile, I had my camera in my hand. I'm like this, you know. So I back up. He gets out of the van, and he's saying, "You
ever come over my house. He says, on my street, he said, I'll blow your heads off. I mean, but he said the word. So I'm looking at him. So anyway, so I thought they were, shut up. Shh. Up, sorry. Excuse me.
You'll have a turn.
All right.
Go ahead.
So we were standing there. He gets out of the van. He starts.
Well, he's already out of the
he's out
van,
of the
and
van.
they're cursing at each. Listen to me,
they're
Miss
cursing.
Urena.
Okay.
They're out of the van, and they're both cursing at each other.
Right. So now I thought they were going to fight, and all he did was just stand there and kept yelling. So I snapped 2 pictures, which are the pictures I have here, showing my husband in the van and him angry, going away from my property because he was leaving. And then he skids back around the corner. Sure enough, half hour later, here come the police, tick, 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 at my door. We welcomed him in, explained to them what happened. They told my husband, we're going to write you a citation. My husband says, I'm not signing anything.
Just a second.
Okay.
What were they writing your husband a citation for?
They said that Ray Long told them that my husband punched in the door of his van.
And your husband said what?
My husband said, I am not going to sign anything because I didn't do any damage to your van.
Right.
To the van. And he asked to see the van, and the police officer said no. They said, wait till the next day, and then you can see the van.
So they wanted him to sign an acknowledgement that he received the citation.
Right.
And your husband refused to do that, so what happened to him?
They put him in handcuffs in my living room, took him out for about now this all happened before the ticket was written.
I don't care. Okay. Listen, that's between you and the police department.
Right.
The idea was they wanted to give him a ticket. He had to sign for it. Your husband said, I'm not signing anything. They said, oh, yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
They put him in handcuffs. Put your hand down. Your wife's not letting you speak yet.
Okay.
They took him outside, and they kept him outside. You blame him for that.
Yes, the officer went back around the corner, and then with him wrote the citation, and he signed it.
Right, of course, because your husband wouldn't sign the ticket.
Okay, he did sign the ticket. My husband did sign it.
Eventually.
Actually,
when they came back.
Mr. Urena, if you had signed the citation when the officer had given it to you, the officer would have left your house. Is that right?
Yes. No,
of course. Oh, yes, he would have. Would have said you have to
citation
respond to
wasn't
this?
Ma'am,
It wasn't there.
Can I speak now? Actually, they weren't writing the citation. They came over for me to sign it. They said that he was going to
write the citation.
That he was citing me, not the police officer.
Let me read you from your complaint. When my husband refused to sign the ticket, he was placed in handcuffs and held for 45 minutes.
Yes, that was my, yes, okay.
That's what you said?
Yes, that's what I said.
That's what happened. All right, what's next?
All the charges were dismissed against my husband because I took pictures of the van, dated pictures from the 7th through the 14th. There was no damage on that van. He had 2 pictures that he showed the judge that showed damage to the van. When he left my property, there was no damage on that van. So I don't know who damaged it, but it wasn't us. And all charges were dismissed. I've got the right here. And also he got all the neighbors to lie for him.
Don't say he got neighbors to lie unless you have witnesses here.
I have
you
proof.
Can't. No.
Timesheets.
Unless you have witnesses here, you can't say he got people to lie for him. All right. What's the next harassment?
Okay, and we had put in also because he was complaining about our property, saying that because we are Mexican, that we are running a chop shop, and our car lot was supposed to be like a front to cover up for a drug ring.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Pauline and Richard Ureno say neighbor Raymond Long lied under oath, causing them to be denied a business permit.
Show me where he said that.
He said it verbally. He wouldn't put it in writing.
Where did he say it verbally?
He said it at the public response office.
Just a minute. Just 1 second.
Okay.
Were you present?
No.
Then you can't tell me that. That's hearsay.
Okay.
All the neighbors say that, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Show me a neighbor.
The neighbors aren't here.
Right.
Okay, so just the constant harassment. I've got pictures of police in front of my house that when they served the pictures when the police came to service for the order of protection. I mean, these things that were things on the internet.
One second. Who filed for an order of protection?
He did. That's the affidavit with the order of protection right here, where he states, and I can verify.
This is his affidavit for an order of protection.
His affidavit.
That I will see.
Okay.
He accused me of taking pictures of
Here's
his
my-
daughter. I didn't
this
even
is
know
it.
he had a
This
daughter.
is my timesheets to prove where I was on those nights.
I didn't
that he
even know
accused
this
me.
man had a wife. The whole time we seen this
We never
man
see him, Hardy.
behind us, we seen him up by himself in a house. Okay, I didn't know this man was married. I got kids, teenagers, that I got 3 teenagers, and he's accusing me or my wife. We're not even sure
taking
which
pictures of
one.
his daughter.
That we were taking pictures of his daughter when we don't even know. We didn't even know that he had a daughter, and I don't know what he really meant by that either. So he did nothing but lie on everything.
All right. Now, what happened with the order of protection? Did you receive an order of protection, sir?
Yes, I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Can I see?
It was a temporary order of protection for 30 days until the trial.
Well, was the trial completed?
Yes, it was.
And what
they
happened?
eventually did drop the case.
Okay.
I actually brought the order of protection itself.
Can I see it?
We got 2 citations, Your Honor. One was dismissed, and one was
Eliminated.
eliminated. In other words, we didn't have to go to court. They just called us on the phone one day, and they said it was eliminated.
Okay. Now,
We had this problem with this.
let's take the first basis for your suit here today, which is that he conspired with other neighbors to deny you an opportunity to earn a living from your home by complaining to the zoning board or whoever issues a permit, thereby causing them to reverse their original order, granting you a permit.
Right.
They have an absolute right to do that,
Yes.
whether he did it or not. If somebody lives in a residential community and feels as if one of their neighbors is doing something that is going to devalue their property or impede their safety.
To complain, Your Honor, but not to
Not
lie.
to lie.
Not
Just
to
a
lie.
second.
And
Just a
put it down
second.
on paper and sign.
Just a second. I haven't seen a lie, and if you want to show me a lie...
I'll show you a lie. It's
Let
in
me-
your hands.
What?
The affidavit there that is with Justice Court that he filed, that he just told you he filed.
I'm not talking about the order of protection, madam. I'm talking about your business, which really started this whole problem.
Right.
Show me where he lied with regard to his complaint.
He wouldn't put it in writing.
Then you have no proof that he lied with regard to his complaint that he didn't want you to sell used cars out of the front yard of your home.
Now, can I say something else?
No, you
Please?
have to answer my question, not say something else.
Okay.
You have no proof that he lied.
Right. Can I show you the area that we live in?
Show me the area.
Okay. This is the area where we live. There are homes. Here, that one, this one. So there's really no complaint for him.
We built there, Your Honor, for one purpose.
We got 7 lanes of highway in front of us.
To start a business there, okay? That's the purpose we built there. And everything's up to commercial code. We went and tried to...
Then what you do is you have to appeal. That has nothing to do with your neighbors. Where is your home on this street?
No,
Hold on, I've got mine.
that's
Mine
the
is
back
right
of
here.
it.
This
That's
is
the
mine.
back of it.
This is mine.
It's a two-story house.
Right here.
With all, they sell cars anyway.
Oh, now you're accusing us
Shop,
of doing
I don't
something?
want to hear.
Liar.
This is not over. We're going back again.
See, this is another threat. He threatens me all the time.
Absolutely, I
Yeah.
can see
All the
that.
time.
You got a hot head.
Yeah.
Man, he's threatened me.
Just a minute. Listen, I want to tell you something. I, living in that community, could understand why some people would be disturbed by having your private house with all of these old used cars in front of them in the parking lot. He has a right to complain that he doesn't like the way this looks in his community. You have a right to bring it through the administrative process. What you did was you got really angry.
Angry.
And what you
Mad.
did, you got really angry. And it was, I assume, vented at Mr. Long.
Yes.
Because Mr. Long also ran a business out of his house.
Right.
All right.
Bottom line, Your Honor, he's jealous. That's the
Of
bottom
us.
line.
He's
okay?
jealous of us.
He's
Just
just
a
plain
second.
jealous.
Bottom line is, you have no lawsuit.
I know we don't have a lawsuit.
So what are you doing here for?
Well, because we thought, because he put us through all of this, I mean,
We've been
he
going,
won't stop.
We've been
He
going
doesn't
through
stop.
him on
he
this
would
for about
stop.
a year.
Listen to me. Whatever happened that night, you see, you don't have to say a word yet. maybe never. What happened that night was you were angry.
Your Honor.
Shut up, quiet. You got a hot head.
You want to see a lie? I'll show you a lie. The ticket, it says that there was a hole in the van. You show me a hole in the van. Where's a hole in that van? My husband never punched a hole in his van. That is a lie.
Did the police return? Just quiet. Did the police return to your home that evening?
Yes.
Did you, in fact, show them any damage to the van?
Yes, I did.
What did you show them? Can I see it, please?
Your Honor,
Yes.
the damage to the van is long gone. It was a malicious destruction of property that the city prosecutor found enough evidence to pursue. It was dropped. I let it go. It's $250. I don't even care about it anymore. I just would like the Urenas to leave me alone.
Your Honor.
How did... Quiet. Tell me what happened.
As they had been doing for about a month before, coming by weekly, and I have the events all in writing, but weekly, taking pictures of everything that I do. I was getting
Stop
tired.
flipping pages.
I was getting tired of it. And this was basically the last straw, 12 o'clock at night. I have a problem with one of my vans that gets towed home. They jump out of bed and drive over and start snapping pictures right there in front of my property.
Okay.
And it's annoying.
So you went back, you were
I went
hot
over
too.
to talk to them. From the second I drove up, Mr. Urena was in my face. And in the passenger door looking through, I had the window down. And yes, the conversation got heated, and that's when he punched the door. He was in such a rage, he might not even remember punching the door. Bottom line is, I don't even care about the dent anymore.
You just want to be left alone.
Just leave me alone.
Your Honor, now can I say something? I can prove right here that he's lying with that picture.
Go ahead.
This pictures were dated. His picture is not dated. Okay? These pictures were taken 3 days after he claimed that there was a damage.
7 days.
Okay?
14th.
Now, he claimed that I punched that van, okay? There was no... If you look at that picture, I'm not a body man, and I'm not an attorney, okay? But I can tell you this. There's not a punch with my fist on that van. That's what he claimed.
He has nothing in his hand.
That's what he claimed, okay? This is the picture. We took the picture 3 days later, and there was no damage to that van.
What do you think, he did it himself?
Yes,
I don't know.
Just a second. You think the police wrote out a ticket? Listen to me.
We don't know, ma'am.
We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know.
You didn't let me finish.
Wait.
Okay.
Hothead.
Okay.
Hothead.
I'm not.
Oh, yes, you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
We both are.
Oh, sure you are.
Yeah.
You're a hothead.
Both of us.
Well, just look at the evidence, ma'am. That's all you got to see. And that tells you who's lying and who's not lying.
No, it doesn't.
And there's no date on his pictures. Mine are dated.
Mine are dated.
Up to the 14th,
I don't know
7
what
days
the
after.
police did.
We're going to find out when we get home.
Hey.
Yes.
No, ma'am. We're not.
You can change a date.
See, it's never going to end. It's never
You
going to
can
end.
change
No, it
a
won't.
date on a camera.
My originals are dated.
You're not listening to me.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Your complaint was that he caused your husband to be handcuffed and held. Your husband caused himself to be handcuffed and held because your husband refused to sign the ticket. They said, hands together, we're taking you into custody. You were humiliated in front of your wife, maybe your family, maybe your children. That's your fault. But I'm going to tell you something. If you're going to spend your time in a vendetta against this man and your other neighbors, you're going to diminish the quality of your lives and theirs. He's not moving.
Neither
I
am
am
I.
sorry that you invested your money anticipating that you could have a business there, finding that you can't have a business there.
No,
and
we can't. We
spending
are
the-
C1. We are Zone C1. Yes, ma'am, we can.
You can't have this kind of,
That
business,
kind of
business
business,
there.
right.
So you have a frustration. Get over it. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Now, this is case number 346 on the calendar in the matter of Miller versus Hastings, Washington. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Who are you?
Brenda Hastings. I'm Michelle's mother.
How old is Michelle?
17.
Okay. Miss Miller, Michelle is your son's girlfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your son.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're really suing your son and his girlfriend. Her mother is here because she's a minor.
Yes, ma'am.
It appears from what I've read that you decided to rent a house. You were
Yes, ma'am.
separating from your husband or something like that.
Yes, ma'am.
And that your son and his girlfriend said that they wanted to come and live with you. You say that this didn't work out, but they owe you for back rent. They owe you for money that they put on your credit card. They have a counterclaim. And their counterclaim involves both of their cars, which they say that you took, you hid, and caused damage to.
No, ma'am.
So
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
what the case is about. Very complicated. When did you decide to rent this house?
About the second week of September.
And what was the rent on the house?
$575 a month.
And what was your arrangement with your son and his girlfriend?
I had planned on moving. My husband and I were just going to separate for a little while to work out some differences. There was a duplex that I had been waiting on that was around the corner from the house. My 15-year-old son had told Charlie here that we were moving, and Charlie indicated to him that he needed a place to go. He was tired of the stuff at Brenda's house. I had talked
He
to
had been
Charlie.
living with you? Is that right? How old are you?
19.
I had talked to Charlie and told him that was fine. There was no mention of Michelle at the time. That came up later with Charlie saying that she don't really act like she acts, but she'll act better when she's not around her mother. I thought about it for a while, and I said, well, we'll give it a try.
This is a lot of information that I really don't need.
Okay. Well, I went up and asked the landlord, and the landlord said they were renting it.
Oh, okay, fine. So you decided to rent it, and you decided to let the two of them move in with you.
Right.
And what was the financial arrangement with them?
We would go on the rent 3 ways.
Did you discuss that with her mother?
No, ma'am.
And you knew she was 17?
Her mother had put her out. They wanted both. They had asked several times for both of these to put them out. And my young son
Listen
here,
to me,
Derek,
Miss Miller,
can tell you.
That's not my question. My question was, you knew that Michelle was 17.
Yes, I did.
Okay, Michelle cannot enter into a contract with you because she's a minor. So if you did not have an agreement with her mother to pay a third of the rent, you cannot sue Michelle for a third of any rent that you believe she owes you. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's do away with that. Now, so let's deal with your son. Did your son give you any money towards the rent?
No, ma'am.
Yes,
He
I
gave me
did.
$150 to help put on deposits on the utilities.
So he gave you $150?
Yes, ma'am.
How long did they live in the house?
6 weeks.
Negative.
3 weeks. 6 weeks.
We moved
And
in
when did you
Thursday,
move out of the house?
The 28th.
Of September?
Yes, ma'am.
Charlie did not move out of that house until the 10th of October.
I moved out the 28th.
You stayed there. You were on the run from the police.
Just a second. Miss Miller,
Yes, ma'am.
what rent do you believe your son owes you?
For him and Michelle, then it should have been half of the $575.
No. Miss Miller, he's supposed to pay a third of the rent, right?
Right. But I have a 15-year-old at home that these two here complained what was his part of the rent because he was getting child support.
Did you move in with another child?
The 15-year-old moved in shortly after these two did. He didn't stay there all the time, but he was there.
What about you? Did you move in?
I didn't move in till the 24th
Of September? September?
No, August. Oh, no, it was September. I'm sorry. I didn't even stay there half of the time. I
Miss
stayed
Miller,
maybe a whole week
Miss
out of
Miller, did you move in August 24th or September 24th?
there. September 24th.
Okay, well, let's go to the credit cards that you say that they used. How did they come to have possession of your credit cards?
They didn't have possessions. We had an agreement. I have a letter from the landlord because Mrs. Hastings was putting them out. We had an agreement to try to get the house livable for them to live in so they had a roof over their heads. And
You're talking about credit cards, Miss Miller. Let me hear about the credit cards money.
I put my credit cards, to get the house in order for them to live in, it had to have floors, it had to have cabinets, it had to have everything. The house was gutted out. It had to have everything.
So is that what was put on your credit card?
Yes.
So why do you think they should pay for that?
Because we're in agreement. Mrs. Hastings put them out.
Negative.
Stop saying Mrs. Hastings put them out. It doesn't make any difference whether she put them out or not. Now, am I correct?
It does make a difference.
No,
Yes,
it doesn't make a
does.
difference legally.
Her mother put them out. He didn't have a place to go.
She
He
didn't
cannot
put
go
us
to
out.
my house that I own. My husband will not let him stay there. He's already ripped us off. He's breaking into the house. He's broken into the garage. He's not allowed on the property. Okay?
Miss Miller.
I did what I could to get him a roof over his head.
Miss
and I
Miller,
got
you're his
repaid.
mother. Listen to me. You're his mother.
Excuse me, ma'am. But this boy, I've got papers. This boy has been in and out of jail, detentions. He was stolen from me when he was 14 months old. I've got legal documents, Charlie, to prove it all.
Miss Miller.
He's on drugs. I've tried for years to get him help, okay?
Miss Miller, listen to me. I understand that you have a frustration with him.
If you helped him out as much as I have in a lifetime, you would too.
Miss Miller, listen to me. If Miss Hastings allowed your son to come and live in her house with her 17-year-old daughter, then she's got rocks in her head and probably decided she had had enough. Bottom line, that's your son. It's not her son. And if she had had enough of him and was putting him out, and her daughter Michelle says, I'm not staying here without him, then she says, you want to go with him? Go with him.
He's been living there with her since she was 15 and he was 17.
You want to know something?
And she's put him out 3 times.
Miss
and
Miller.
I have been there.
Miss Miller. Miss Miller.
Yeah, okay.
Miss Miller.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your son. And if she's put him out 3 times, and if he was living there from the time he was 17 years old, it had to have been because you and your husband put him out.
Exactly. No, he left on his, no, you left on your own
Miss
because
Miller,
you
don't
were
talk
on
to him.
drugs, Charlie.
Miss
He was
Miller,
selling drugs
1, 2,
out of my
3.
house.
Miss Miller.
And I called the police
Put her
on you,
outside.
that's why you left.
Put her outside. I'm going to let you cool off outside, Miss Miller.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. But Tina Miller says her son Charlie Washington, his girlfriend Michelle Hastings, and Michelle's mother Brenda owe for rent and repairs to her home.
Miss Miller, you can't talk to your son. This is not a time for you to shout at your son when you're in a court. Time to do that is when you had him in therapy when he was 7 years old. If your son had been giving you problems and moved out of your house, whether you put him out of your house or whether he left voluntarily, you knew where he was living with the Hastings family and their daughter, that was probably a major error on their part. Some people do that. I never quite understand why they take in somebody else's problem into their home. But be that as it may, if you decided that you wanted to put a roof over your son's head as his mother, that's what your job is. That kind of unconditional love is what you do for a child, even if they drive you crazy. Are you currently living in the house?
No, ma'am.
Did you decide to go back to your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that where you are now?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that where you're going to stay, you think?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about the cars. You took your son's car out of impound?
I paid to get it out, yes, ma'am.
What'd you do with it?
Set it in my backyard.
And what happened to it?
It sat there until the day that he came and threatened me. And then I took it down on the corner where I told him and the police officer that I would set it and left the keys in it, that in the Nissan.
And somebody stole it?
I don't know.
Well, it wasn't found on the corner, is that right?
I don't know where they found it at.
Where did you find your car?
I found mine in a ditch on Orville Smith.
It was not in a ditch. I got pictures of where I left it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So what you're saying is somebody took the car after you left it there with the keys in it. Why'd you leave it there with the keys in it?
There was no keys in it.
There was keys in it.
Crazy.
When you left it, the keys were in it. So I'm asking you, why did you leave it with the keys in the car?
He came, he harassed me. I didn't want him on the property. And for him to come and get the keys, then he would have to come on the property. And I talked to him in the back of the police car and told him.
What were the police doing there?
I called him because he threatened me.
When did he threaten you?
When he came to the house.
Was this after he had moved out of the rental house?
No, he was in jail. He had just gotten out October 31st, and I didn't know he was out of jail.
What was he in jail for?
Theft of property from an auto and breaking and entering of an auto.
What were you in jail for?
Assault the third.
He was also in jail for that.
Assault the third.
Who did you assault?
My girlfriend.
You ever arrested for breaking and entering?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
In 97.
What about auto theft?
Yes, ma'am.
So you got his car out of impound, you told the police he had threatened you, you were taking the car, you were parking it at the corner, you were leaving the keys in the car, and that's the last you know of the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And you found the car when you got out of jail, sir?
I did.
Where did you find it?
It's on Orville Smith Road. She parked it in the edge of the woods.
No, she doesn't park it anywhere. You found it there. You didn't see it.
I found it there.
You found it there.
I got out and I looked and I turned around and I went back to my house. And I brought him down there, and he couldn't find no keys nowhere in the car.
Well, maybe somebody who stole the car took the keys after they finished joyriding in the car. What about your car?
Well, my mother and my father found it in a hayfield.
What makes you think that Miss Miller took your car?
Because she stole the keys out of my purse. I didn't have it in my possession.
No, I did not steal the keys from her purse. This key goes to a car of Charlie's that he has in their yard. I don't know if it runs or not, but it was on this key ring with this key. And when I talked to Charlie on the phone after he had beat up Michelle, he told me one of them keys went to the car. And that's how I got the car.
So what did you do with the car?
Charlie explained for me to take the car to my house and park it and not to let Michelle have the car.
You mean her car?
No, it's his car. It's legally in his name.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is your car, the car that you're talking about, that you're suing over, in whose name is that car titled?
Yes.
You have two cars titled in your name?
Yes, ma'am.
What year cars are they?
94 and 87.
What do you do for a living?
Well, I was working at Arby's.
At Arby's? Who bought the cars?
I bought one, she bought one. But she wasn't old enough to put it in her name, so I signed for it.
Why didn't her mother sign for it?
Because they went and got it without me. I was at work. They went looking at cars. They picked up one, and she bought it.
Miss Hastings,
Yes.
is he still living in your house?
He is right now, yeah.
You had him arrested for beating up your daughter. You've thrown him out of your house at least 3 times.
No.
He left your house 3 times in the last 2 years. You took him into his house, into your house when he was 17 years old. Since he was 17 years old, he's been arrested several times, according to him, for a variety of things. Breaking and entering, auto theft, assaulting your daughter. Would you kindly tell me what kind of medication you're on? Because I want to take some. If you don't see that he's not right for her.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. But Tina Miller says her son Charlie Washington, his girlfriend Michelle Hastings, and Michelle's mother Brenda owe for rent and repairs to her home.
Miss Hastings, he's not right for her.
He may not be right for her, but everybody has to make their own choices, and
hey. Everybody has to make their own choices once they're an adult. Until you're an adult, your parents help you make those choices, and they don't do things that encourage you to make bad choices.
Well, Tina has put her son out several times.
Tina's son is a bum. Was your daughter a bum when she was 15?
No, my daughter was in school when she was 15.
Is she still in school?
She's going to night classes.
No. Before she met him, she was in school.
Yeah, but she...
After she met him, she's not in school.
Had nothing to do with him.
Oh, listen, Miss Miller.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to give you some words of advice. Is this the first child that you've had that's been in trouble?
Yes, ma'am.
You think you know how to deal with it now?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how you're dealing with it.
I work with it the best I can.
My advice to you is you be there as a backup in case of an emergency, in case something bad happens. But until he grows up and stops doing things that are both harmful to himself, to the people that care about him, and to you, he's going to have to make his own mistakes. If you put yourself in a financial position where you've stretched your finances, it's a foolish thing to do. Because what will happen is he will never be forced to grow up. You tell me you put him out of the house, or he left the house when he was 15. The Hastings took him in. And when the Hastings decided to put him out, you provided a roof over his head. He's never had to grow up and face responsibility. Had 2 cars titled in his name, working at Arby's.
Well, he didn't buy the car. The Firebird was given to him as a gift by me and my husband. I did not put him out of the house. He had a choice. He could go to jail or he could go back to Michigan to his dad. He took off on his own. He was on the run. We did look for him. He stayed with a friend of his up in a trailer, drinking, getting high. The owner of the trailer came to our house, wanted to know what was up. We went up there. He was gone.
Okay. Miss Hastings, I've already told you what I think of the fact that you allowed him to move back into your house after he beat up your daughter. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Absolutely the dumbest. And if your daughter wants to be dumb enough to take off with him, as you said, people make their own choices. But you're making it real comfortable for her to do things that ultimately are going to be devastating.
It doesn't matter in what they have done. I mean, it's the car situation. It's her having them to move into a rental house because her marriage, she moved out.
I'm not, listen to me. I'm not dealing with your lawsuits. Both of your lawsuits are nonsense. Hers, she cannot convince me that her son owes her any money. With regard to the cars, you have no proof whatsoever that your mother took your car, put it in a ditch. She says that after an argument with you, she told the police, I'm putting the car on the street corner with the keys in it. I don't want him anywhere near my house. A reasonable explanation is that somebody walked by, saw the keys in the car, took it for a joyride, and trashed it. I think that both of you, but especially you, Miss Hastings, I don't understand you at all. What do you do all day, sir?
Now,
Now.
go to school
No, you don't.
at night.
I asked you what you did during the day. Don't tell me that you go to school at night. What do you do all day?
Hunt for jobs.
Hunt for jobs. Michelle, what do you do all day?
Work.
Where?
At Walmart.
You work 5 days a week?
8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
And you come home and he's watching TV? Michelle, look at me. You come home and he's watching TV?
I don't know what he does during the day.
Michelle, before you get pregnant, get smart. You'll be working at Walmart, 9 months pregnant, and he's going to be sitting home playing with Nintendo that you will have bought him for Christmas. Get smart. Cases are dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yeah, this is case number 301 on the calendar in the matter of Cale versus Whitney. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
According to the complaint that I've read, you loaned the defendant a car because he was in dire straits. And you said he could borrow yours until he got one that was supposed to be forthcoming very soon. Is that right?
For 2 weeks, we told him he could borrow a vehicle.
And he borrowed your car for 2 weeks. He kept it a lot longer than 2 weeks. By the time you got it back, it was pretty well trashed.
Correct.
So you are suing him for $5,000, a little high for the kind of car that you loaned to him. The car was a 12-year-old car?
Correct.
Okay. So were they very nice to you to lend you the car?
Yes, they were.
And why didn't you take care of it?
I did take care of the car, Your Honor. I did extensive.
Let's start with the windshield. Windshield was broken while it was in your custody.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you fix it?
No, ma'am. I could not get it fixed.
Then you didn't take good care of it.
Ma'am, the extensive amount of what happened was not in my control.
I don't care it was in your control. The car was in your control.
The car was in my control.
So then why didn't you fix the windshield?
Because I was not working at the time. What happened was
you're saying to me, it was your responsibility, but you didn't have the money.
Ma'am, there was 7 days notice. I was getting a threatening call from the plaintiff, the lady, had given me a call saying to me, demanding that I have to come up with $300 within 4 days.
How long did you keep the car?
I had the car for 2 months. The car sat for a month in my driveway because it had a broken windshield, Your Honor.
Why didn't you return the car after 2 weeks?
I don't know.
Why
you are
did you call for
misled,
the car?
ma'am. The correct.
Did you call for the car?
Many times, and he was saying that he was going to be getting another vehicle. He had purchased it. He should have it in a few days.
Don't speak.
And we called back. Do you have the vehicle? No, I don't. That deal fell through. I just don't have that. But I'm getting another car, and I'm buying a motor separately, and we're going to be putting it all together, and then you can have your car. We still didn't hear about it. Then we tried continually calling and calling and calling and calling, and he wouldn't answer the phone. And then we finally, one evening when we did get a hold of him, we said, we will be there tomorrow morning. And he had called us early that morning, oh, the windshield's been smashed. Okay, so what are you going to do about it?
No.
I'll tell you just a second.
We gave him adequate time from when the windshield was smashed, which was roughly the beginning of September.
When had you given him the car?
We had given him the car around the June 20th of 2000. So it's longer than the 2 months that he's saying. That's over 3 months. We picked up the car. We had to go pick up the vehicle on September 25th, on a Monday, after I had to pay for the vehicle to be repaired, as well as we were also threatened by the defendant, stating that if we show up on the property, that his girlfriend is a police officer and that they will have friends from Dearborn come and arrest us.
That is not correct,
What are
Your
those
Honor.
tapes?
This is the tape showing that he did say that they would have us arrested.
What's the other tape?
And this is the tape of some of the damage done to the vehicle.
That I'd like to see.
Your Honor, may I say something?
In time.
Yes, ma'am.
This is me trying to get into the lock. He broke the lock on the car. This is us trying to start the car in park, which he damaged the vehicle. No longer starts in park. Here you go. We tried it a couple of times. It doesn't even turn over. Nothing happens. When we took it to the Ford dealership, he had broken the neutral safety switch with the drive shaft. And then when we go to start it in neutral, that the vehicle stalls as soon as we start it, if you can get it started. You can also see we had a Ford radio in the vehicle that was given to us from a friend, and I have a statement from her regarding that they had given us a radio because the vehicle
Was the radio taken out when you got it back?
Yes. There was no
What
radio
else?
in it. He'd also broken the seat to the chair. As you notice, the other chair's reclined, and this chair here is when you sit down in it, and when you lean back at all, it goes all the way back to the back of the seat. This is where the radio was located at prior to when Aaron had stolen it, as well as he also stole other minor things that were in the trunk of the vehicle at the time.
Plus the windshield.
Yes, plus the windshield.
You have the
He's
estimates
also
for the
done
damage.
Yes, I've got
Can I
damage
see it,
to
please?
the engine that he's also done. The vehicle, he drove the vehicle with no oil in it and burned the engine out. He blew out 2 tires on the vehicle. They're worn to the steel belts.
Just a second. You didn't take pictures of the tires.
Because I can't get underneath the car. I'm 8.5 months pregnant. I won't fit, and neither would my husband. But I have
Well, you're gonna
estimates from the Ford dealership and
Just a
things
second.
showing that.
Did the car have 2 flat tires when you picked it up?
No, but you can see the steel, when you wear your tires down to the steel belts in your tires.
Let me see the estimates without the tires. Mr. Whitten,
Yes, ma'am.
you picked up this car sometime the latter part of June of
Yes, ma'am.
2000, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you picked up this car because you needed it for work?
Technically, I picked the car up from the defendant's sister's house, drove it to his parents' house, parked the car.
His sister was living at his parents' house, so she couldn't have
Just
lived
answer my
anywhere else.
question.
Yes, ma'am.
You wanted to borrow this car, I said, because you needed it for work. Is that right or wrong?
Correct.
Good. Just answer my question.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a state certified mechanic, ASC certified, and I was in the roofing union doing sheet metal.
And did you work? Were you employed in the month of June?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you employed in the month of July?
Half of July, I had injured my knee and I was not able to work.
Until the injury, you went to work.
Yes, ma'am.
So you drove this car for approximately 1 month.
Yes, ma'am.
It's scary that you read my mind. Do you know that?
Known you a long time.
When they just fall all over themselves, it's just such a pleasure. Even the smart Alex, you know? It's just such a pleasure for me.
Your Honor?
Don't speak.
Okay.
You borrowed somebody's car, you drove it for at least a month, you drove it every day to work until you hurt your knee, and you returned it to them in a condition that is completely different from the way you got it. And then you say,
Your Honor,
it's not my fault.
May I please tell my side of the story now?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. I was sitting with my witness as a police officer, my fiance, on their couch watching a movie. If you want to know the correct movie, it was American
I don't
Pie. I
give
know
a
you don't
rat's
care.
behind what you were watching.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me.
I have
Mr.
told
Whitten,
them,
Mr. Whitten,
Your
just
Honor.
listen to me. Don't try to shout over me. You can't do that.
And later today,
I heard a clink noise and looked down and the explosion went off. Boom. Huge explosion.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rachel and Brian Cale say former friend Aaron Whitten owes them for car repairs.
Go ahead.
Rachel, the plaintiff, pardon me, I'm sorry, had said, Aaron, you can use the car as long as you want.
That was real nice.
Yes, it was. The reason why I think it was being real nice is because I have gone over there extensive amount of times and helped them.
I don't go into what's in their mind. They
I
said
received the car with damages. When I first met the plaintiff, me and him went hunting.
I don't care about... Listen to me.
It falls in for the point of for your material. The neutral starting, Mr. Kale had to pull his shifter down to start it every time. That was a lie.
That's not true.
The stereo was stolen from their house. It was in a Kenwood or an Alpine, I cannot remember correctly, was stolen. Plus with some
Just
other
a second.
stuff.
Is what you're telling me, when you got the car, it did not have anything in that hole?
No, ma'am, nothing.
No, nothing was in the hole but the radio, the letters from the lady who had given us the radio to put in there, because the radio was stolen prior, the one that we had in there.
their garage on a
second.
chair.
So he is absolutely right. There was no radio in the car.
That's what no, it was in the trunk of the vehicle, and he stole it out of the vehicle when he had our vehicle.
Listen to me. You have no loss for the radio. You didn't buy it. Somebody gave it to you.
Yeah, but if we have to replace it, we have to pay over $400 for that radio.
I'm not sure.
Well, if you look at the estimate from it.
That's not what I'm not sure about. I'm not sure that you left the radio in the car and that he stole it. What's next, sir? So far you got off the hook for the radio.
Yes, ma'am. The charging light came on. When I picked up the vehicle, we had to jump start the vehicle. He also said that the battery light does stay on. The reason why the battery light stays on is because the voltage regulator unit was freezing inside the vehicle. Check engine light came on because it has a bad O2 sensor. It had an idle ignition sensor.
Why didn't you bring it back to them? Listen to me.
I have
Mr.
told them.
Mr. Whitten,
Your
just
Honor,
listen to me. Don't try to shout over me. You can't do that, sir.
No, Your Honor. I'm not trying to shout over you.
Good.
But what I am
Then-
trying to tell you my side of the story.
You're almost ready to go. If you have a car that you borrow from somebody and it has all the trouble, sir, that you say this car had.
They know the troubles, Your Honor. They
You're
knew about
interrupting
it.
me and you're ticking me off. Pay careful attention to me, sir. Normal, reasonable person. And if your girlfriend is a police officer, she's heard the expression of reasonably prudent person, right?
Yes.
If they borrow a car from somebody and the car looks as if it's having real trouble, they return the car. They say, look, I drove it for a couple of days. I see it's got lights on, and I don't want to be responsible if anything goes wrong with it. So I'm giving it back to you, and I'll find some other way to get to my roofing jobs. They don't drive the car for a month and then say, the car had a lot wrong with it, therefore anything that happened to the car isn't my fault. That's what a reasonable person does.
Okay.
And if you did not act responsibly, you have to be responsible for the consequences of what you do.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
May I finish my...
No.
I have some other evidence. I mean, they got to describe their evidence. I should think I should be able to.
There's no way that they're going to get $5,000 award from me.
They
for a
could
night.
even
I'm
reserve
speaking.
$400 for what the car
I am
is.
speaking.
So was I.
So are you?
I was rudely
I'm in charge.
interrupted twice.
I never rudely interrupt. I start to talk. It's my courtroom. You have to stop. That's the way the rules are in a courtroom.
Doesn't the called rights too?
Yeah, you have whatever rights I give them. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500.
As far as I excuse, you may step out.
They were lying. They knew the problems of the car. They tried getting some outrageous thing. This is a classic case of somebody trying to get something for nothing.
At least now everyone gets to see what Aaron looks like, and now they have to know never to lend him anything because they won't get it back in the shape that they lent it to him in.
And now the next case.
All parties on Buersdorf versus Gagnon. Step forward, please.
33-year-old wildlife technician Frederick Buersdorf is suing former friend, 37-year-old landscaper Dave Gagnon, for throwing a spray paint can into a bonfire. Frederick says the can exploded, causing third-degree burns.
You were at a bonfire attended by a lot of people. Is your claim that the defendant, these are my words, the defendant, while acting like a complete fool, threw a paint can into the bonfire, which caused you to be severely burned?
That's correct.
You want him to pay for your medical bills and a substantial amount for pain and suffering.
That's correct.
When did this incident occur?
October 7th, approximately 6:30 in the afternoon.
Where was the bonfire?
At my brother's house. He had just recently moved into a place.
What time did you arrive at your brother's house?
About 6 o'clock.
6 p.m.?
That's correct.
And what time was the unfortunate event which caused you to be burned?
Shortly after. I wasn't even there, about a half hour.
So it was about 6:30.
That's correct.
Now, Mr. Gagnon, what time did you arrive there?
Approximately the same time, Your Honor.
6 o'clock?
Yeah.
Had you been drinking before?
Yeah.
How much?
Probably about a six-pack of beer.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I vaguely remember it, Judge. At the time, I was pretty intoxicated.
So you really don't know what you did?
when Dave threw a can of spray paint into a bonfire. Dave says he didn't do it.
Now, what prompted you to pick up this paint can?
I don't know, I seen it and I put it in the fire earlier. And
How much earlier, sir?
about an hour or so earlier.
You
And
said you arrived there at 6 o'clock. This incident happened at 6:30. So
Well, I'm not too sure about the time, because I really didn't get the, didn't look at a clock or nothing.
So you threw a paint can into the fire, and nobody was hurt, I assume, at that time?
No.
And it is your defense that you did not throw the paint can that caused his injury?
Correct.
Do you know who did?
No, I don't. There was a lot of people around the fire.
How many people?
Probably about 18 people.
Now, Mr. Bruesdorf, tell me about the exact moment when this paint can exploded, and we're going to go through the events of what happened afterwards.
Okay. I recently got there, stood in front of the fire, I was talking to some people, conversing. I heard a clink noise and looked down and the explosion went off. Boom! Huge explosion. Burnt my forearms, my right face, all of my fingers, my wrists. First, second, and third degree burns. I have pictures here too.
I'd like to see the photographs. How long were you hospitalized?
I was in and out treatments, debridement, every day for 13 days.
How did you get to the hospital?
A friend of mine that was showing up had brought me to the hospital. I went right into the house and immediately started putting water on my face and arms for about 20 minutes or so. And when my friend showed up, he took me to the hospital. They didn't want to take me to the hospital. They said it wasn't bad.
Who's they?
The defendant and some other people that were there. It didn't look that bad at first.
Did you speak to the defendant after the explosion?
Yes, I did.
What was the conversation?
He was sorry.
What did he say to you?
I didn't think the paint can that I threw in was going to do that. I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm sorry.
He said that to you?
Yes.
You remember that, sir?
I vaguely remember it, Judge.
Well, why would you have said that, sir, if you hadn't thrown the paint can?
Because at the time, I was pretty intoxicated.
So you really don't know what you did? You knew enough to say sorry.
Yeah, I did. I knew enough to say sorry, but there was a lot of people there at the time, and there was bottles being thrown in. A kid threw a bottle in there, was poking at it with a stick. It blew off and took a chunk of his head. I mean, he was bleeding. So it could have been anybody at that present time that threw it in there.
Did you hear anybody else apologize to the plaintiff like you did?
No, because no one else, everyone, as soon as that happened, like Ricky had no friends after that. So I went by his house and I, apologized.
That's what happens when you drink too much. Mr. Bruesdorf, you indicate that you have a witness with regard to this incident?
Yes, I do. Nick Burke.
Would you step up, please? Tell me what you observed.
Standing there, I seen Dave move towards the fire, drop something in, came towards me and asked me, "Do you hear that?" I said, "What is that?" He said, "A ball bearing." And I said, "What do you mean ball bearing?" "Ball bearing for a paint can. There's a paint can in the fire." And then I look up and then bang, blew up before I could get the words out to warn anyone to get away. There was a bunch of people standing real close. He was the only one that got burned bad, but it could have been 3 or 4 different people that were standing next to him.
Thank you. Can I see your medical bills, please? Who is this gentleman with you?
That's Scott Stebbins. He's a good friend of mine. He's my witness.
What does he want to tell me?
Your Honor, I was standing right next to Dave, and I did not see him throw the paint can. I was standing right next to him. And if he would have thrown the paint can in, he probably would have warned somebody.
Your
Well,
Honor?
that's just... Wait one second. The facts. Your conjecture of what he would have done or what he might have done is totally useless in a court. You understand?
Yes.
Did you see any of the other 15 or 18 people who were at the bonfire throw paint cans into the fire?
Not paint cans, Your Honor.
Paint cans is what I'm talking about. Paint cans.
No, they were throwing bottles.
So the only idiot that you saw throw a paint can at some time was the defendant.
Earlier that day.
Well, it had to be within an hour because he was only there, according to him, for a half hour before this incident happened.
But when he did throw that one in, Your Honor, that
Yes.
one exploded. And we knew that it already exploded. And then
I
later
understand
on,
that.
somebody else threw another one in.
Well, you don't know that, sir, at all. The only person of the 15 or 18 people at the bonfire who you saw throw a paint can at some point was the defendant. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Thank you. Sit down.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Mr. Bruesdorf, I want you to describe for the defendant what it feels like when they do the debridement of burns. Tell him. You have open skin.
Open skin, it's bleeding. Every time they scrape it, it bleeds. It's excruciating. They tell you to take more pain medicine, but it doesn't work.
What kind of pain medicine did you take?
Percocet. I still felt every inch of it.
You understand, sir?
Yes, I do.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000 as requested. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Your Honor, this is case number 380 on the calendar in the matter of Tiger versus Davidson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
According to your complaint, your husband, who had suffered a stroke some time ago, needed some assistance, and you hired the defendant because you were planning a European cruise. You hired the defendant who you knew from doing volunteer work at some senior citizen center. And according to you, after about a week on the cruise, he left. There was some disagreement. He left the cruise, and you want him to reimburse you for his tickets, which was some $3,000 for the cruise. Right?
Yes.
He has a counterclaim. He says that he was unceremoniously thrown off the ship, and it cost him some $400 to get back. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And when was the cruise scheduled?
July 25th is the day we left. We had a couple days in London before the cruise.
And your agreement with him was what?
To go on the cruise, all expenses paid. What he would have to do is shower and dress my husband and push the wheelchair. As soon as we got there, it's as if he was totally unable to handle his responsibilities.
And you said after the first day something happened. So tell me what happened.
Our first tour, we were getting off the bus. I asked Joe, bring the wheelchair so my husband could sit down, and so quickly he jammed the chair against my husband's legs, almost knocking him down. I talked with my hands and I just said, "Are you crazy?" And I just flung my hand back and I went to reach for my husband.
Did he wheel him on that tour the first day?
As part of the time.
And then you went back to the cruise ship?
Well, even before we got back there, he told me he did not want to take care of Jack anymore.
What did he say?
He said, "I don't want to do this anymore." I said, "Excuse me?" He says, "I don't want to take care of Jack anymore."
Did he say why?
No, no explanation at all.
So then you got back to the cruise ship, and what did you do?
Well, we got back to the ship. I couldn't do anything that day. That evening, I heard him defaming me to some passengers, telling them that I assaulted him. And I spoke with him and asked him not to do that, that it's not appropriate, and it's none of anyone's business what happened between us. He said he wouldn't talk about it anymore, and he indicated to me that if he could find a way off the ship, he would do it. I told him go see the purser. 2 days later, when we were in port, I went to the purser. Well, my stepson was sharing a cabin with Joe, and he was very disgusted that he would have to look at him after what Joe did to his father.
Well, why don't you step up, please? You're Richard?
Yes, ma'am.
You were sharing a cabin.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you have any conversation with the defendant?
Very little. I was upset about the whole situation, so I avoided him.
Did he, in fact, after the incident, the first day on ship, have any contact with your father?
He actually got into a tuxedo that he had borrowed and participated in the formal dinner that night and came over and attempted to talk to Paula, at which time she asked him to, just not talk to us.
Did he come and shower your father?
No, Your Honor.
Did he wheel him around at all?
No, ma'am. I took over and did all that.
Did you have any discussion with the defendant about leaving the ship?
Just the time that he told Paul if there was any way he could leave the ship that he would. So we went to the purser and tried to find out if that was possible.
And who communicated with the defendant that, in fact, arrangements had been made for him to be dropped off?
Paula and myself looked around the ship and found him in the library and explained the situation.
Who explained the situation?
I did.
What did you say to him?
I told him I arranged for him to leave the ship, and he only had a few minutes to pack.
Where were you?
Ireland, Cove, Ireland.
Okay.
And we assisted him to his cabin, watched him pack.
So you said to him you had arranged for him to leave the ship?
Yes.
What did he say to you?
He said, what? He didn't really say anything. I gave him his ticket from London to the United States, and I told him when you get to the airline, tell them you need to change your date, that you're flying back.
Okay. Now, Mr. Davidson, let's hear your version of the events.
Mrs. Tigger asked me to go on the cruise with her. The first agreement did not mention showering and dressing him. She said, I want you to wheel him around, and I want you to take him out on the deck after lunch and read to him. But the main reason I'm taking you on this cruise is that I am sick of having to get up during dinner to take him to the restroom.
At some point, you changed that agreement with her with regard to showering and dressing?
She said I had to shower and dress him and undress him.
When did she tell you that?
2 weeks before we left.
So that you knew that before you left?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
But before we left, she called me up on the phone and she said, I'm giving you a check for $2,500. I want you to cash it and give me the cash back. She was acting like she was paying me $2,500 to go on the cruise and then give her the money back.
Let's get to the cruise, Mr. Davidson.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We got to Le Havre. I put together his wheelchair. He sat down in it. I was wheeling his wheelchair. She came back and she assaulted me, saying that I had hit his foot.
How did she assault you?
She punched me with her hand.
Show me how she punched you. With a punch?
With a punch.
Yes.
On my right shoulder.
Yes.
She said, get away from us. We don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. Just leave. I went back to the ship. I tried to file an assault report. They refused to take it. I went to the purser. The purser said, are you leaving the ship? I said, I don't have tickets home to leave the ship. I can't leave the ship. She waited until we got to Ireland. They said, you're off the ship. They took me to my room. They made me pack my bags. They handed me this. And they said, you have to do this and you have to take that flight. And you have $200 in traveler's checks to pay for the flight. I got to London and the tickets weren't good for another 9 days.
Go ahead.
I explained to the airline what happened. They saved my life, Your Honor. They gave me a standby ticket. It took me 31 hours to get home.
Mr. Davidson, why would you think that she would unceremoniously throw you off the ship unless she had a problem with the way you were taking care of her husband?
Because she was angry with me because I wouldn't cash her check, and she didn't want me to go on the trip.
Well, that sounds sort of strange, Mr. Davidson, because you said that this was prior to you leaving by several weeks. At that point, it would have been very easy to cash in your ticket and say, forget it, I don't want you to go with me.
I feel I would still be standing here that she would have sued me for not going on the trip.
No. Now, that doesn't make sense, Mr. Davidson. What I just don't understand is something was sufficiently egregious about the way you were handling her husband so that she said, I don't want you to have anything to do with him anymore. Because I believe that you did say that, Miss Tigger. I believe that you said to him, get away, I don't want you to take care of him anymore.
That was the next night.
Whatever. It was the next night. You said, I don't want you to have anything to do with him anymore. So that you don't get the money back from his crew. You don't get the money back. As it happens, he didn't even finish the trip. My question with regard to you is, do you have any sort of counterclaim? Because you said it cost you about $400 to fly from Ireland to London and then your taxi and everything else, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Had you ever been to Europe before, Mr. Davidson?
I've been to London once.
How long ago?
25 years.
And did you spend 2 days in London?
Yes.
So at least those couple of days were pleasant.
Yes, ma'am.
The reason that I asked you questions before with regard to your treatment of Mr. Tigger was because I can't figure out why she would have fired you. Because I believe she told you that she didn't want you to take care of her husband anymore. And I do believe that you also said to her, I'm not doing this anymore.
No, ma'am, I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
Never?
No.
Did you appear at their door each morning to shower Mr. Tigger?
No.
That was part of your job?
Yes.
And you didn't do it?
No.
You didn't make an attempt to do it?
I went up to them on Sunday night and I apologized to Mr. Tigger.
What did you apologize for, Mr. Davidson?
I said, if I inadvertently hit your foot, which I did not do, I apologize. I would never do that.
But you did not report to their stateroom each morning.
They called up on the phone and said, send Richard.
Did you ever ask Mrs. Tigger for him to come down and shower your husband?
No.
Miss Tigger, you are not entitled to recoup from Mr. Davidson the money for the ticket.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson had cards made up. Personal travel companion will travel worldwide. And on my dollar, he took these cards and was giving them out to passengers.
So what? So what does that have to
He
do
would
with you?
take a disabled person, leave them in their room, and go and enjoy himself on a cruise.
No, Miss Tigger. Please, please. That's really not what happened. And I don't blame you at all for deciding that Mr. Davidson was not giving your husband the kind of compassionate care that you thought he should have. But that doesn't mean you can recoup the ticket unless he left voluntarily.
He did leave voluntarily.
No, he did not leave voluntarily. He did not. You had him ejected from the ship. You just told me that you found him in the library. You had made arrangements for him. He did not even respond to you when you said to him, you're leaving now and you have to pack quickly because you only have a few minutes. You took him to his cab. I said, what had he respond? He said he went, he didn't know what to say. Now, if you had let him remain on the cruise ship for the entire course of your 10-day cruise, and if he did not, in fact, perform his duties, but he took full advantage of this vacation, then you might have had a cause of action. But you arranged for him to leave.
2.5 days after the incident, when he goes around like he's Mr. Hotshot, enjoying the cruise, yes, to tell you the truth, it totally disgusted me.
So
he would
then
do
you
that.
made
And defaming me to passengers and giving out his business card, which I had never seen before.
Doesn't make any difference. Giving out his business card and telling passengers that you assaulted him is not, you may consider it a reason. And it may be a reason because you say, look, he's talking badly of me, he's giving out his business card, and I'm footing the bill. So I'm getting him off this ship. That's what happened. So you did. You have to pay for it. You lose. The only thing that I have to consider is your counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
And I do, in fact, believe, Mr. Davidson, that at some point you said, I don't want to do this anymore. You may have said it to her after she either pushed you on the arm or slapped you on the arm. You're not accustomed to that. I believe she probably did it out of anger because she saw that her husband either might have been hurt, his foot might have been hurt. But I don't believe that you have a cause of action. You had an option. When she came to you and said to you, you are leaving in Ireland, you could have said to her, I'm not going anywhere.
Yes, ma'am.
And just continue to enjoy the sea breeze.
Yes, ma'am.
And I will stay as far away from them as possible.
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't do that. That was your choice. Your case is dismissed, as is your counterclaim. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He had every intention of having an incident, hurting my husband, and then quitting so he could get a free cruise.
Paula is a control freak, and if you don't do what she says, the second she says it, she flips out.
And now the next case.
All parties on Turner versus Peak. Step forward.
33-year-old flight engineer Christopher Turner is suing his ex-girlfriend, 26-year-old child care provider Anna Peak, for the return of a computer monitor and a web camera. Anna says they were gifts.
You used to be the defendant's boyfriend. You broke up some time ago. You say that she has some property that belongs to you. She says everything that she has, that you claim belonged to you, were gifts. That's what this case is about.
That's correct.
Let's talk about the phone. What kind of phone are we talking
It
about?
was a Sony 900 megahertz phone. It was a little black phone. I used to call her on the phone, and when she used to go out and feed her ducks and chickens, her old phone she had just was constant static. So I got tired of hearing it after a while, so I just said, hey, I got an extra phone you can borrow, and I brought it over one day, and she used it from then on. I never actually said you can have it as a gift or anything like that.
What else?
A net cam.
A net cam. What's a net cam?
A net cam is something you hook up your computer, and you can get on Microsoft Net Meeting, and you can talk two ways, and it shows a video on it also.
Net cam. So tell me the circumstances surrounding you giving her the net cam.
I'm in the military, so when I go TDY, basically temporary duty, I go and fly to Japan, Hawaii, Alaska, and stuff like that for my job. So I always bring my laptop with me. So I got an extra net cam. I saw her online, so I asked her to bring up the program for...
Just a minute. You got an extra net cam. Do you have a net cam?
Yes, I do.
And what did you do with yours?
The first one I have, I let her borrow, and I just showed her
And
how
she
it
was
worked.
your girlfriend?
Yes, she was.
So you are telling me that you said, I am giving you this net cam that you can borrow. but if we break up, you have to give it back because I'm just loaning it to you.
I never actually said it because I don't ever actually think we're going to break up or nothing like
Of
that.
course that's,
I'm an
Mr. Turner.
optimistic
That's
person.
exactly what I'm saying, sir. You got it. That's exactly what I'm saying, because I don't think it's kind of romantic. You're off doing this TDY or whatever. You want to be as close as possible to your girlfriend, so you want to be able to communicate with her. So you go out and buy a new one. Not very romantic. You give her the old one, you keep the new one, but, you know, maybe you really weren't so sure about the relationship. What's next, Mr. Turner?
Basically a monitor also that I'll borrow.
A monitor. When did you give her the monitor?
Around December 18th.
December 18th. Under what circumstances did you give her the monitor? I assume this was for a computer.
Yeah, I built her a computer also. I built computers as a hobby. Well, she had a little 14-inch monitor, and I went to a computer show, and I needed an extra monitor also, so I got a good deal on one.
So you bought yourself a new one?
Yes, I did.
And you gave her your old one?
I took the new one out, put on my computer desk is like a two-tiered desk. So I already got one 17-inch monitor. When I put the second one on there, the second tier couldn't handle sort of bows in the middle. So I just put my 14-inch monitor on there and let her borrow the other one.
You walk into her house and you've got this new monitor, and you're in love.
Well, I don't know if it's... okay.
And it's a few days before Christmas. So you say to her, I have something here that you can borrow?
No, what I did, I had the computer wrapped up. I actually wrapped up a monitor too, because I had a necklace in there also.
Just a second. You wrapped up the monitor?
It's how, well,
Just a second. You wrapped up the monitor?
Yes.
In what kind of paper did you wrap the monitor?
It was Christmas wrapping paper.
And within that same package, you were also going to give her a necklace.
Yes.
Was it wrapped in the same Christmas paper?
It was actually in a computer box.
So you brought over three presents.
That's correct.
Wrapped in Christmas paper.
The monitor wasn't a present. I was just gonna, when I gave it to her, I said, hey, here's a computer. It wasn't a computer. When she opened up, she saw it was a computer. I said, what's in the big box is actually a smaller box. The other one I'm just gonna let you borrow.
You said that to her?
That's correct.
Mr. Turner.
No, he didn't.
You would have been out the door. What did she give you for Christmas?
A couple shirts, some pants, and something else. I'm not sure what it is.
Cologne. Obsession.
Oh, cologne.
Yeah, cologne also.
And it's a little gift bag with little playful stuff.
As far as you're concerned, all of these things were gifts.
Correct. Well,
you don't have to say any more. Correct.
Yes.
It's easy. Mr. Turner, get over it. They were all gifts. That's all.
Parties are excused.